Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto has something else sealed inside him apart from Kyuubi part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. The Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze, was preparing the seal that would defeat the Kyuubi no Yoko. He was 6 feet 1 inch with a medium build and spiky blonde hair down to the back of his neck. His beautiful red-headed wife Kushina Uzumaki lay next to their newborn son, telling him all the things she wished she would be able to do for him. She was dying after having the Kyuubi ripped out of her by an unknown figure wearing an orange spiraling mask. Minato was originally planning on using the Reaper Death Seal and split the Kyuubi's chakra, but Kushina had pointed out a better way, if time allowed, and he was determined to make it work. The Kyuubi had not yet appeared, but they were sure it would not be long now. This new seal he was frantically working to complete was going to be the achievement of a lifetime. It would provide their son with all their ninja knowledge and all their best techniques and jutsus. On each of his birthdays it would release shadow clones of them and tell him about them and who they were, starting when he turned 5. It was also designed to use the Kyuubi's chakra to make sure any harm that came to their son would be healed completely. Minato loved his village and its people, but he was no fool. He knew people would blame their son, and he could never live with himself if he didn't do everything in his power to help his son. This seal was going to be his final masterpiece. It would have chakra suppression seals that would take fully half his chakra every day and store until he was asleep, then force it back into him slowly to forcefully expand his chakra coils to give him an unheard of capacity. It would stop functioning when he was approximately 14 unless he chose otherwise. By then he would have reserves equal to that of a mid-level Bijou. With this he also included a control seal that will remain until he is around 18 to be able to fully control his reserves. He will still never be able to do a regular clone, but then again no Uzumaki can. It would also give the Kyuubi more freedom than its last seal. It would have 10 purification seals that would turn the Kyuubi's yokai into pure life force. He was unsure of what all the life force energy would be capable of, but he knew it had the ability to completely heal and revitalize someone. It would then store it in 5, what he called resurrection seals, enabling him to heal from wounds that to other people would mean certain death. These seals would take about a month to refill, but all of them could refill at the same time. Kushina prayed they would never have to be used but wanted them nonetheless so she would have some peace of mind. He decided to make it so he could use up to 3 of them to save someone else's life if he wanted to, so that he could save his friends. It would not only heal them, but it would also purify their body of all diseases and outside influences. He also included a seal that could turn his chakra into medical chakra, that way he didn't have to use his resurrection seals unless it was dire. Included were chakra masking seals so he wouldn't draw too much attention from Jujutsu users until he was able to handle it, and to keep sensors from going crazy when near him. He even made a camouflage seal that could hide him completely, that way could be used to escape trouble. However, it could only function for a short length of time before it would need a cool-down period of sorts. He theorized the usable length of time would increase as Naruto's body grew, and could take the strain as well as learning to control his massive chakra reserves. He included a genjutsu sensor seal. The seal would sense foreign chakra entering his system and automatically use either his chakra or the Kyuubi's to dispel it. Only very subtle genjutsu would have any effect, but he would still more than likely be able to sense them. His final addition was to put progressive gravity and resistance seals that would activate when he turned 5. Due to the healing factor of the Kyuubi, they would be able to increase at a steady rate that would be much faster than anybody else could handle. He would not be told about them until he was 12. In order for these not to be a danger, they would deactivate when a large amount of adrenaline was detected. He also was going to allow the Kyuubi to deactivate them in case the danger was unknown to Naruto. This would give him extra strength and speed without anybody learning of the seal's existence. His final addition was to make the seals invisible except for the base one that would hold the Kyuubi to prevent them from being copied by anyone. The others would probably show up when they were used, but that was just the nature of seals. As he is doing this, Kushina was trying her best not to cry at having to leave her son. Her only solace is that the new seal they had come up with keep her son safe and her husband out of the Shinigami's stomach so they could be together in the afterlife and watch over their son together. As she laid there just holding and being with her son, she couldn't help but think about the reason she had managed to live for the last several hours, besides the fact that she was an Uzumaki, as opposed to dying right away like most Jinchurikis would have. Flashback. She was chained to a rock as the man in a spiraling orange mask was attempting to break the seal that held the Kyuubi. The Kyuubi for its part was doing everything in its power to stay in the seal. When the Kyuubi realized that it would not be able to stop itself from being removed, it did the next best things it could think of. It pumped about 3 taels worth of power into a storage area in the seal that would keep Kushina alive for a few days in the hopes that she would be able to reseal it back inside of her. With a parting of "Sorry my old friend, I can do no more," the Kyuubi was removed. End flashback. After that, she had seen her old friend controlled and forced to kill her. Minato had shown up and rescued her and taken her to their safe house where their child was. After a short discussion of what they knew, they determined the most likely thing the masked man had planned was to attack Konoha with a controlled Kyuubi, and they knew they would, most likely, not be able to reseal it into Kushina. She would have to use the remaining chakra she had, along with what the Kyuubi had left her, to hold it in place long enough to seal it. With these final decisions, they started to devise a plan to save their home. Kushina was sad she would not be there for him as he grew, but she knew that the Kyuubi would take care of him and give him a friend the same way it had done for her. 10 minutes before Minato had the seal complete, they heard the sound that they had been fearing. The Kyuubi roared into the sky, doing everything in its power to warn people that they needed to run and letting Minato and Kushina know that it had arrived. On the battlefield, the ninja did everything they could to slow it down in order to give the civilians more time to flee. Jutsu after jutsu was thrown at the Kyuubi, but they were no more annoying than a mosquito bite to it. Calls of "we must hold out until the fourth arrives and defend Konoha at all costs" were heard echoing across the battlefield. The Sandaime Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, stood on the wall above massive gates waiting for the Kyuubi to make a direct attempt on the village. As he stood there awaiting the inevitable, he muttered to himself, "Minato, where are you? Your village needs you. I don't understand how this happened. I thought the Kyuubi was happy with Kushina. With you there, the seal should never have broken." It was at this time Jiraiya arrived next to him. "I have a message from Minato. He says he needs 5 more minutes to finish his plan," Jiraiya informs him. "I fear that may be 4 minutes too long," says Hiruzen as the Kyuubi arrives at the village gates. Summoning Enma and having him transform in the adamantine staff, he attempts to halt the beast, only to be flung back several blocks with nothing but a sonic roar that destroys everything in its path. This caused the first of many civilian casualties that night. Hiruzen tries to push the Kyuubi back by extending his staff, only to meet it in a brief stalemate before Jiraiya steps in. Danton Swamp of the underworld rings out as the ground under the Kyuubi is liquefied and it starts to sink. In response, the Kyuubi launches a massive fire attack at the ground, overpowering and cancelling Jiraiya's out, while starting fires all over Konoha. The Kyuubi starts charging up its ultimate attack, the Bijudama, and aims it directly at the Hokage monument where the Yandaime Hokage has just arrived. Using his teleportation seal, Minato teleports the attack away from the village so it only damages the forest. He then appears above the Kyuubi, summoning Gamabunta. "What the hell is going on here?" Gamabunta asks as he sees the destruction of the village. "And why am I sitting on top of the Kyuubi no Yoko?" He continues as the entirety of the situations becomes clear to him. "Gamabunta-sama, I need your help. I need you to hold it down as long as you can so I can prepare to move us to the sealing area I have set up." "Very well, Minato, I will try, but don't expect a miracle. Even I can't keep up with the Kyuubi for long. Any time you can give me will be a big help." He started gathering chakra in preparation to teleport the Kyuubi to the sealing area. Just as he finished, Gamabunta was forced to desummon and returned to home to heal. He had taken quite a beating from the Kyuubi's tails while trying to hold it down. With no time to delay, he jumped to the top of the Kyuubi that was currently using his tails to smash both business and residential areas simultaneously. In a brilliant yellow flash, both the Kyuubi and Yandaime disappeared from the village and reappeared near Minato's safe house where Kushina and the blonde child were waiting. Most of the ninjas began to cheer and celebrate, thinking that the fight was over, but Hiruzen, Jiraiya, and most of the ANBU knew different and took off through the trees to get to where they sensed the creature. Outside safe house. In a bright flash, they appeared just as Kushina started to form her chains to hold the Kyuubi down. It was at this point the genjutsu place on the Kyuubi loose just enough for it to speak. "Minato, Kushina, I am sorry I cannot control myself. You need to seal me so this cursed genjutsu will wear off completely. Can you put me back into Kushina?" "I am afraid we cannot. You are too strong for me to hold and seal at the same time, and Kushina would need to stop using chakra in order for it to be successful. Our only choice is to seal you into our son. But this will probably take all my chakra and we will not be able to be there for him. Can I trust you to take care of him in our place?" Minato asked as he prepared the ritual altar. "You have my word that I will do everything in my power to make sure that he is well cared for and safe." "Thank you, old friend, I will miss you, but we will be watching," says Kushina. The rest is going to go as canon with the claw when the genjutsu takes hold again and the speeches. I can't bear to write all that when most of you should already know it, or have read it multiple times. Council chambers, next day. The newly reinstated Sandaime Hokage walked in carrying a small blonde child. The rest of the council that had been arguing about the best course of action to rebuild both the village and ninja force. Hiruzen sat down and called for silence. "First thing first, what are the reported casualties?" he asked. One of the elderly advisors named Hamura, a man who had been on the Sandaime's genin team, spoke up. The death toll is currently 6,000 civilians and 4,000 shinobi but expected to grow. That's fully 1/4 of our forces. Another 3,000 civilians were injured along with another 2,000 shinobi. 300 buildings were destroyed or damaged to the point where they will have to torn down and rebuilt, and another 1,500 sustained damage of some kind that is reparable. Hiruzen pinched the bridge of his nose. So many dead. This will make things hard for years to come, and that's not even taking into account when the other villages find out if they decide to attack. Kami, I hope I can still do this. As this was going on, the little blonde child started to fuss and make noise, alerting everyone to his presence. It was at this point that his other genin team member spoke up, as she, her name being Koharu, was his other advisor. Hokage-sama, who is this child you're holding, and why have you brought him to this meeting? Dreading the response, Hiruzen braced himself and began his explanation. This child is the hero who saved us all from the Kyuubi. This got him a lot of curious looks, and at the council urging, he continued. The shinobi all know this, but just to give a refresher to everyone, it is impossible to kill a bijou. If you do manage to destroy their physical body, it will reform in the same place in about 3 to 7 years. This drew gasps Mosh of the civilian side. What do you mean in the same place? The fourth killed it, there is no other explanation, shouted one very fat merchant. We must find a way to stop this, shouted another. Silence, shouted Hiruzen. Now if you will all give a minute to finish, it will become clear, he said. Looking around, seeing everyone paying attention, he continues. The only way to stop a bijou from reforming is to seal it in a container. Now the one-tailed and even the two-tailed can be sealed in special made urns or containers. The three-tailed and up must be sealed in a living being, preferably human, so as to stop the bijou from taking control. At this point, Danzo Shimura interrupted him to ask the question that the Hokage had been dancing around. Are you saying that this boy is now the container of the Kyuubi no Yoko? He asked while his mind was coming up with ways that he could get the boy into his care. He could turn him into his perfect weapon and use him to take the Hokage seat. After Danzo said that, all hell broke loose. The entire civilian side was calling for his blood. We must kill the demon, screeched a pink-hair woman. The yondaime made it weak so we can kill it, said another. He turned it into a child to make invulnerable, shouted the third. Hiruzen was beyond furious and blasted them, killing while calling for silence. No one, and I repeat, and no one, is going to harm this child. It was Minato's wish that he be seen as a hero for bearing such a heavy burden. If these are the reactions I can expect for all of you, then I am going to make a few new laws right now. 1. It will be punishable by death to tell the younger generation about him containing the Kyuubi. 2. It will also be punishable by death to tell the child about what he carries. At this, many looked upset but decided it was not the time to test the Hokage, as he was in a rather foul mood. Everyone at this point was wondering what he would do with the child. Danzo wanted to bring up the subject but knew that if he did, it would make him appear eager and cast suspicions on his motives. Finally, after almost 2 minutes of silence, Inoichi Yamanaka, the head of the Yamanaka clan, decided to speak. What is it you are going to do with him? He could be placed with one of the clans to be raised and trained to be a shinobi. At this notion, Fugaku Uchiha devised a plan. If he could get the Jinchuriki, he would be able to mold him into a weapon of absolute loyalty. He decided to act quickly in order to set his plan in motion. The Uchiha would be willing to raise the boy as if he is one of our own. I have a son who is his age that he would be able to grow up with and see as a brother, Fugaku stated. At this point, Hayashi Hyuga decided to speak up. The Hyuga would also take him. He could receive the best training and placed within the branch family. As all the other clan leaders at this point tried to give a reason why they could be best, Hiruzen called for silence. No clan shall be taking this boy. It would tip the balance of power and make one clan far more powerful than any of the others. At this, Danzo say his chance. I could take the boy. Give him to me and let me raise and train him. He will be the ultimate weapon for Konoha in the future, and will be taught how to completely control the Kyuubi, he said with almost the smallest hint of a smirk. At this suggestion, many of the civilians started to murmur about that maybe being the best option. Hiruzen would not hear of it. I will not let you turn this boy into another one of your mindless drones to be your personal attack dog. He will be placed in the orphanage where he can have a normal childhood with the other kids that will no doubt be there after this horrible tragedy. Some of the civilians tried to argue this point, but he refused to budge. Danzo meanwhile went back to scheming, planning to kidnap the boy in a few years when he would not need to have some care for him for the entire day. He figured that 5 years should be enough time to set his plans in motion. After this, the meeting was called to a close as Hiruzen could listen to the fools for no longer. He decided that tomorrow he would take the boy to the orphanage. Next day, orphanage. Hiruzen handed the boy to the matron at the orphanage, asking her to take good care of him and to speak to no one of the Hokage, delivering him to her. He now had no whisker marks and traditional Uzumaki red hair. The matron asked his name, and was given the response Naruto Uzumaki. 5 years later. Children run for many reasons. Playing tag, finding a place to hide while playing hide and go seek, racing to get to the park to play, or even just racing to see who is faster. The boy we find running now is not playing a game of any sort. He is fleeing as several drunk civilians trying to, at least what they said anyway, finish the Yandame's job and get the demon brat. Semi-flashback. This was a relatively new phenomenon to the boy. Until about 6 months ago he was treated just like every other child in the orphanage. That is until his hair turned blonde and whisker mark appeared on his face. When this happened, the matron went to the Hokage to ask what could have happened. Unfortunately, when she could not find the Hokage, she settled for his advisors, even after she was told never to divulge information on that child to anyone but him, fearing that his health may be at stake. When she told Hamura and Koharu, their eyes widened for a brief second as they put together who the boy was almost instantly. They assured her that everything should be fine and they would look into it. They then proceeded to tell the civilian side of the council and Danzo of their discovery. The reactions were mixed. They had been looking for the boy for over 4 years and had no luck finding him. No child matching their given description was ever spotted at any of the orphanages. But now out of nowhere someone came in telling them of a child that had changed overnight to look like the one they were seeking. It was obvious that the Sandame had placed a genjutsu on the child to change his appearance. What they didn't know was that it only worked on adults. The rest of the children saw Naruto for who he was, and he had become friend with many of the clan children already. He had played with them in the park several times a week from the time they were 3. Danzo had shown up the next day and attempted to adopt the boy. The matron, who was a bit suspicious, started the process and told him to come back a few times over the next week to get to know the boy to help him adjust to the change. The final day he was to visit and take Naruto home was the same day the Hokage had showed up to reinforce the genjutsu he used to change Naruto's appearance. When he got there and realized it slipped, he asked the matron if any parties had suddenly expressed interest in him. She showed him the forms that were being filed for his adoption, the same forms she had sent to him but never arrived. He didn't recognize the name, and decided he had better wait for the person to show up. If this was a real family that just wanted to give him a home, he would be more than happy to allow it, after he ran some of his own checkups on them, of course. But he had sinking feeling that it was someone with less than pure intentions. Hiding himself in the shadows, he waited until door opened to reveal Danzo. When he asked the matron if Naruto was ready to go with a big smirk on his face, Hiruzen nearly lost it. At this moment he stepped out of the shadows and confronted Danzo. To say Danzo was surprised was an understatement. Hiruzen very carefully explained to Naruto, who had arrived in the meantime, that Danzo would not be able to adopt Naruto because he was becoming very sick and didn't want to take the chance that Naruto would catch it. The irony was not lost on Danzo. Hiruzen then quickly and quietly whispered in Danzo's ear, "If you so much as attempt to contact Naruto again, I will personally kill you and all of you rude agents." "That's right, I know you didn't dismantle it like I ordered. This is no threat, it is a promise." With that, Hiruzen turned to Naruto and asked if he would like to get some lunch as an apology for what had happened. Danzo hadn't moved, still frozen at what he heard. He was not scared. Death didn't scare him. He was surprised the Hiruzen had found his backbone again. Seeing that he would not win this day, he went back to his plotting. He knew he could not openly defy or oppose Hiruzen. He was called the Shinobi no Kami, the god of shinobi, for a reason. After that, Naruto's life had taken a turn for the worst. The nice matron had been removed through action on the part of the civilian council and Danzo, who decided if he couldn't get to Naruto, he tried to make Naruto come to him. He wanted his weapon. They replaced the kind matron with one of their own choosing. She was someone that saw Naruto as the Kyuubi and treated him as such. She told the other kids to stay away from him and started kicking him out when she was teaching the other kids. At first Naruto thought he did something to make her mad, but when he tried to apologize, she told him she didn't care what a demon like him had to say. Naruto was reduced to playing alone unless he went to the park. Even some of his friends had their parent pull them away from now that they could see what he really looked like. His only friends that remained were a little girl with blue hair, pale skin, and lavender eyes with no visible pupil named Hinata Hyuga, Hinata's 2-year-old sister with brown hair, and the same eyes Hanabi Hyuga, a blonde-hair girl with blue eyes and no pupil named Ino Yamanaka, a rather plump with swirls on his cheeks named Chuji Akimichi, and a boy with his dark hair tied up looking like the top of a pineapple named Shikamura Nara. These were the only parents who would let them kids play with him. All the other parents pulled their kids away. End semi-flashback. Today is Naruto's 5th birthday, and he thought that maybe today would be a good day. All his other birthdays had been. There was always a festival on his birthday, and he loved to go. He had been walking through the festival when he was spotted and arrived in his current situation. As Naruto was running, he realized that while he was staying ahead of most of the stumbling crowd, there were a few that seemed to be keeping pace with him easily. After all, how fast can a 5-year-old run? What he didn't know is that they were herding him to a less crowded area away from the ANBU and Uchiha police watching the festival. When they finally got him far enough away, they cornered him in an alley with a dead end. Only about 12 people of the mob remained. In that mob were 4 genin, 3 chunin, a jonin, and 4 civilians who were not drunk. The genins and civilians went in first with nothing but punches and kicks with their bare hands. After a few minutes, which were filled with Naruto's pain screams, when he was injured to run away or fight back, having a broken nose, leg, and arm, they backed off. At this time the chunins took their turn. Using kunai, they speared his hands to the ground, getting the loudest scream of his life. They then proceeded to start making shallow incisions all over him with kunai coated in a poison meant to cause pain, not death. After just a few long minutes, Naruto passed out due to the pain. The attackers did not care in the least. If anything, they were emboldened. He couldn't scream now, but would still feel everything later. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto found himself in a dying forest, more confused than he had been in his whole life. He was trying to piece together how he got there, and the last thing he could remember was the worst pain he had ever felt. He looked down and didn't see any wounds or scars and became even more confused. It was at this point that he noticed that the leaves on the trees were pulsing with 2 different auras, one red and one blue. As he was trying to figure out the cause when he heard his name being called, it was faint and he could only just discern the direction. Naruto, follow the sound of my voice. Yes, you are almost here, spoke the deep voice as Naruto neared an impassable grove of trees. Coming around a grove of trees that he could not see through, Naruto saw a massive steel-barred fence that looked like a huge animal pen. The bars were 500 feet tall and spaced with about 6 feet between them. The pen had to be large enough to fit the Hokage monument inside. It had a gate that appeared to be held together with just a piece of paper with the kanji for seal. After taking this in, Naruto noticed a fox with a human-like torso sitting near the gate with his tails swing haphazardly behind him. At first Naruto didn't know what to think until he decided to count his tails. He counted 9. He began to back up. Why you the 9-tailed fox? He asked, trembling with fear. Yes, I am the great Kyuubi no Yoko, the fox replied. Why did those people bring me here? Are you going to kill me? He asked, the first part more to himself than the fox, but it heard nonetheless. This confused the Kyuubi, if only for a second. In truth, it was expecting the boy today, hence why it was at the gate, but it now dawned on him that the boy was about 4 hours early. At this odd occurrence, the fox decided to ask the obvious question. What do you mean those people brought you here? I was chased through the Kyuubi festival by a bunch of people. When I ran down a dead-end alley, they started to hit me and the 2 of them stabbed me with knives I see those ninja use through my hands, and then I woke up here. Naruto explained. This caused the fox to bristle and rage, effectively scarring Naruto. Realizing its mistake, the Kyuubi immediately lowered its killing intent. I guess I may as well start the explanations now. Those people did not bring you anywhere. In fact, they are most likely still torturing your body. This is your mindscape. We are inside your head. At this, Naruto didn't know what to say as he tried to absorb this information. He was a bit scared that the people outside would kill him, but he was thankful that he wasn't feeling it. After processing that information, he had to ask, how did I get here? How did you get here? Why does it look like this place is dying? What's going to happen to me? Why aren't you dead? The Kyuubi decided to slow him down before he got too far into a panic. First off, I am not sure how you got here. It may be in response to the pain. Second, how I got here will be explained later. Third, this place is a representation of you. 6 months ago the place was green and beautiful. It looks like this because of how you have changed in the last 6 months. I don't know what has been happening, but it is not good. Fourth, you will be just fine. I can sense your injuries and healing them just enough so you survive, but not enough for people outside to see. Lastly, you can't kill me, not permanently at least. After explaining this, Kyuubi decided that there was something he needed to do. I can sense they have left outside. I will send back and talk to you tonight when you go to sleep. I am sorry, but this will hurt. When you wake up, you need to use this hand sign and say Resurrection Seal Kai. I will take care of the rest. When the Kyuubi was sure Naruto understood and could do as he was told, it pushed him out of his mindscape. Meanwhile, outside. After stabbing the kunai through his hands, the chunin proceeded to stab his arms and leg, repeatedly working their way in. When one of them got too excited and decided to cut his throat, the jonin stopped them. Are you too insane? If you kill him here in 3 years, he will reappear in his full demon form back to full power. This caused the chunin to step away while the jonin performed a quick katon jutsu to cauterize his wounds so he wouldn't bleed out, but still be in pain. After this, they quickly fled the scene as the use of chakra would have no doubt alerted the ANBU. A dog-masked and weasel-masked ANBU landed in the Allion moments later. Dog asked, "Are you sure this is where it came from?" "Yes," replied Weasel. After a quick check of the ally, they notice what looks like a burnt pile of tattered clothes. When they get up to it, they find it is a child that they both recognize. "Naruto! Weasel, you report this to Hokage-sama, I will get him to the hospital." Dog got out before scooping Naruto and body flickers towards the hospital. Weasel then does the same but heading to the Hokage's office. Hokage's office. Weasel body flickers directly into the Hokage office, appearing on one knee. "Hokage-sama," he says in a frantic tone, worrying what might happen if Naruto doesn't make it. "Yes, what is it, Weasel?" asked Hiruzen with a little bit of worry in his voice. Weasel is one of his best operatives, and if he is shaken, then it can't be good news. "Naruto Uzumaki has been attacked," he says, only to almost faint at the massive amount of killing intent suddenly coming from the Hokage. "Where is he?" he yells, trying to rein in his anger so Weasel can speak. Dog has taken him to the hospital. He manages to get out. No sooner than he says that Hiruzen is gone already at the hospital with speed even Weasel can't hope to match. Hospital. When Dog arrives at the hospital with the severely burned boy, he is immediately taken into an operating room. After 5 minutes, the Hokage arrives in an uproar when he sees Dog and no Naruto. "Dog, where is he?" "They took him into an operating room about 3 minutes ago, Hokage-sama," Dog tells him. This eases his mind a little as he sits outside, makes sure only necessary staff can enter the room. It seemed like days, but really it is only about an hour and a half when they wheel Naruto out of the room, looking a lot worse for the wear. The Hokage sees this and instantly begins to ask questions. "Why is he still in this condition?" he asks, trying to keep the venom out of his voice. "We were not able to do any more at this time. His injuries are too extensive, and he is too fragile to operate on right now. The best we could do was to stabilize him and try to keep him sedated, but even that is proving hard as he seems to burn through it very quickly. However, his injuries seem to be healing on their own faster than most of us could do it for him," the doctor reported. They wheeled him into a room and started to set up the monitoring equipment when they witnessed a sight that they could neither explain nor comprehend. Naruto woke up. An ear-piercing scream let everyone know he was awake. The doctor started to call for sedation when he saw Naruto reach for his IV. He grabbed the boy's hand to stop him and was rewarded with another scream. "You must leave it. It will help the pain go away," the doctor frantically tried to reason with him. But the blonde would have no part of it. "Take it out," he ground out through gritted teeth. "I can fix this by myself. Just take it out," Naruto screeches at the top of his lungs. Hearing this, the Hokage was curious. The look in Naruto's eyes told that Naruto really thought he could. He decided to give him his chance. The sedation was coming and they could always just inject it straight from a needle and replace his IV later. Really, anything to that the boy wanted at this point he would allow if he thought it would ease his pain. Hiruzen motioned for the doctor to remove it and give the boy his chance. After it was quickly removed, Naruto brought his hands together in a hand sign and whispered, "Resurrection Seal KI." The doctor only heard the KI, but the Hokage heard the whole thing and his eyes widened for a moment, wondering what was going to happen, having never heard of something like that, and wondering where Naruto would have heard of or even received a seal like that. He certainly didn't do it himself. As soon as Naruto said KI, a blinding golden light washed over him, forcing everybody to look away. It went on for a full minute, swirling and pulsing, making even the Hokage sweat from the amount of power that was swirling around the child. When the minute was up and the light died down, they looked to see Naruto sitting up on the bed as if nothing happened. His clothes were torn, ripped, and bloody, but his skin was completely healed and he seemed to be awake and full of energy. Everybody in the room minus Naruto just stood there with their jaws on the floor. They had never seen anything like that. It would take even the toughest Jonins weeks to be sitting up, let alone be fully healed. He was smiling and trying to mask his pain, but it still shone through in his eyes. His physical pain may be gone, but the emotional pain would take considerably longer to heal. Hiruzen saw this and felt a pang of guilt that he had failed to stop this from happening and keep him safe. He had done so well for 4.5 years, then somehow the genjutsu he had placed on Naruto had worn off 2 weeks early. He had gone over it in his head but came up with nothing but blanks. He was going to reapply it, but the council had already spread what both versions looked like in his name. So he had settled for assigning ANBU protection to him. He decided that he needed to speak with the boy alone. After asking the doctor to check him over then leave, he sat down on a chair next to the bed and began. "Naruto-kun, do you remember what happened?" Hiruzen asked. Hoping that he both did, so he could punish those responsible, and didn't so he would not have to live with the memories of the terrible things that had done to him. A quick flash in Naruto's eyes told him that Naruto remembered everything. Some ninjas chased me away from the festival. They started to hit me, then 2 of them stabbed those ninja knives through my hands and started to cut me everywhere with a few more. Then I passed out. When I woke up I was here and in a lot more pain. Hiruzen could tell it was taking everything he had to hold himself together. It broke the old Hokage's heart to see Naruto in such a state. It almost pained him to have to continue this conversation. How did you recover so fast? It sounded like you released a seal of some kind. It was then that he noticed a slight hesitation that he had never seen in Naruto before. He had always responded to his questions right away. Whether it was from the pain of the memory or something he didn't want to tell him, the Hokage didn't know. Kid, don't jump and don't say anything. You cannot tell him that you know of me yet. Everything will be explained tonight. Tell him something in the back of your mind just made you do it. Make it vague. Hearing the Kyuubi made him hesitate for a few moments before he answered. I don't know. Something in the back of my head made me feel like it would take the pain away. The Hokage narrowed his eyes ever so slightly. He could see that either something Naruto said was a lie or that part of the truth was missing, the fact that he couldn't tell which unnerved him. He was the Hokage and couldn't read the face of a 5-year-old boy. He decided to give Naruto his privacy, as this had already been a hard enough night, and prying might make it worse. He did, however, decide to keep a closer eye on the boy, not only to keep him safe but to make sure that nothing was influencing Naruto's decisions. Okay, Naruto-kun. The doctor said that you are free to go. Let me walk you back to the orphanage since it's late, and we don't want anything more to happen tonight, Hiruzen said with a smile, trying to reassure the boy by telling he would be there, but it immediately turned to a look of confusion when Naruto looked down and let out a sniffle. What is it, Naruto-kun? He asked with a great amount of concern in his voice. I can't go back there. They told me a demon like you isn't welcome here before they threw me out. He managed to get out through the sniffles. At hearing this, Sarutobi was now royally pissed. I can't believe that ignorance of those council members. Putting him through this because they are too stupid to see the difference between the scroll and the kunai. With this thought, he determined another course of action must be taken. How about I get you your own place then? He asked, trying to gauge the boy's mood by his reaction. When Naruto just smiled and nodded, he felt a small measure of relief. Taking the boy by the hand and leading him to his new home. Naruto's new apartment. It wasn't much to look at. That was probably the best thing that you could be said about it. It wasn't that it was run down as much as the fact that it was just old. It showed its age too. It was in probably the oldest building in Konoha. The reason for this being it was the only place that would accept Naruto, especially at this late hour and on this day in particular. Naruto didn't care though. He had a place he could call his own. After saying his thanks for the help, he found himself very tired. It turns out the energy that he felt after releasing one of his resurrection seals had worn off, and he finally felt the stress of the day. As he laid down to go to sleep, he wondered if he would ever be able to go back to the way things had been before they started calling him a demon. Hokage's office. Sarutobi was furious. He was going to get to the bottom of what happened if it took all night. He had summoned Dog and Weasel, who now stood before him. Dog, Weasel, report. What happened tonight? Why did you leave your assignment of guarding Naruto, only for him to be assaulted in this manner? He asked, trying to keep his anger in check. These were his 2 best operatives, and for their sake they'd better have a good reason for leaving him. Dog stepped up. While we were keeping watch, a fight broke out between approximately 35 shinobis. The other ANBU and Uchiha police were overwhelmed. We decided that it would be prudent to step in and assist. After finishing, he motioned for Weasel to continue. We have since come to believe that it may have been a ploy to divert our attention away from Naruto. They used our distraction to chase Naruto away from the crowded areas. After breaking up the fight, we went looking for Naruto. When we sensed a large chakra usage several blocks away, we went to investigate, stated Weasel. Dog picked up again. It was at this point that we found Naruto. He had been the victim of a long torture session, and then they used the Katon Jutsu to stop the bleeding to make sure that he would survive. This last part was the most disturbing. If what they suspected was true, that would mean some of his own ninja have started a fight with plans of it getting out of control, by involving other shinobi that had no part in their plan, in order to cause a distraction large enough to pull these 2 away. To make things worse, they didn't want to kill him, they wanted him to suffer and live. They may have even believed that those injuries would be permanent, especially the burns. It would have been a miserable life had he not been able to heal himself the way he did. As these thoughts were running through his head, he was becoming both more enraged and burdened with guilt for failing his successor. Minato, if you could see me now, you would be ashamed. After a heavy sigh, he spoke. I want you 2 to ignore any fights between shinobi and or civilians while Naruto is in the vicinity from now on. I have a feeling this may happen again. I do, however, Want you to give the illusion that your attention has been drawn. Let's see if we can make an example out the next people to try it. Dog, you are dismissed. Hi Hokage-sama. Dog then salutes the Hokage and flickers out of his office. After this, Hiruzen makes a motion and dismisses that A and B guards stationed in the room. He puts up a privacy barrier. Weasel, remove your mask, Sarutobi commands. Weasel follows the order to reveal the face of a young teenager with black eyes, tear tracks, and a serious expression. This was the face of Itachi Uchiha. What have you to report on the other matter? Sarutobi asked cryptically. They continue down the fool's path. I fear that they are only a few years from truly being lost. Itachi replied in kind. Very well. We must prepare for the worst. Do they still plan to use him as a weapon? Hiruzen asks. I am afraid now more than ever they believe they can. They think I will bring him when the time comes and control him for their bidding, replied Itachi. It cannot be helped then. We will continue to try to diplomacy up to the last reasonable moment, but after that I am afraid I will have to take action. Hiruzen warned. I just hope it never comes to that. As do Itachi, as do I. Naruto's Mindscape. Naruto awoke in the dying forest again and headed towards the gate he found last time. When he got there this time, the Kyuubi wasn't alone. Standing in front of the cage was a tall man with spiky blonde hair and beautiful woman with waist-length blood-red hair. Naruto recognized the man easy enough. It was his hero, the Yondaime Hokage. As he got closer, he could see they were talking to the Kyuubi and did not look happy. When they noticed his approach, they immediately quit talking and turned to face him, seeing confusion in his expression. No one spoke for a few moments until the woman could no longer contain herself. She ran to Naruto faster than he could see and swept him up in a hug. I'm so glad I finally get to see you, cried the woman with tears running down her face. At first Naruto didn't know what to do. He started to struggle to get away, but after he realized that she wasn't trying to hurt him, he calmed down. Who are you and how did you get here? He asked, very confused at what was happening. This only made the woman squeal about how cute he was and hug him tighter. He started feeling the need for air. A part of him would wonder how that was possible after he learned that this was his mindscape. After being released from the hug, she set him down and decided to try to get this awkward part over as soon as possible. My name is Kushina Uzumaki and I am your mother, Naruto-kun. It was this sentence that would change his life forever. At first he was uncertain of how to react. Several emotions went through him all at once: happiness, confusion, anger, disappointment. After a moment, when he gathered his thoughts, he asked the first question that any kid was asked. How can you be my mother? She is dead. And if you weren't dead, where have you been? That was what he'd been told his entire life, and he was having a hard time believing what she said was true. Her face turned at a small frown as she began her explanation. Naruto-kun, what I am going to tell you will be hard to believe at first, but just let me explain before you ask any questions. First, I am dead. Hearing that, Naruto jumped back. Ghost! He screamed while cowering away from her. Kushina only giggled a little before continuing. I am only partially here. I am sorry that we couldn't be there for you. Given what happened, this was the best we could manage. I am only a part of my previous self, a soul shard. I tore off a piece of my soul in order to see you when you would be old enough to understand. I am not a ghost. Kushina explained. Naruto, who relaxed a little as the blonde man walked up to them. Okay, if you're my mother, then why is the fourth Hokage here? He asked, trying to piece things together. That's an easy question to answer. I am your father, Naruto-kun, stated the Yondaime. As Naruto tried to start questioning him, he was silenced by the blonde man. Let your mother, and I explained before you ask too many questions so that we can make the best use of our time here. They explained the event that led up to the sealing and how they sealed part of their souls in him so they could see him on all his birthdays, and hopefully teach him few things about their lives to give him some semblance of family. They told him about how he would slowly absorb their skills and knowledge of jutsus and techniques. They, however, could decide when he was ready for certain ones, which he would only be shown during one of their meetings. After this explanation, Naruto was starting to get excited. Wait until I tell people I'm your son. There's no way they'll be mean to me after that. His hopes were quickly dashed. I am afraid you can't tell anyone about us, Naruto-kun. We had many powerful enemies that are no doubt still alive and would stop at nothing to kill or kidnap you just for being our son. You have to promise me you won't tell. Not until you are strong enough to handle our enemies, or be able to run away at least. And you can't tell anyone you know about the big guy here until you're older. He points to the Kyuubi. And I wouldn't tell anybody unless you are absolutely sure you can trust them. Okay, I promise I won't say anything, he says while staring at the ground, feeling and looking his favorite toy had just been taken away. This is for your own good, Naruto. In time, when you get stronger, you will be able to tell people. After this, they showed Naruto how to unlock his chakra and a few chakra exercises to do in order to gain better control and grow his chakra. They of course left out the seal that would take half his chakra every day. His mother gave him some ideas for pranks he could pull on people who were mean to him, or just for fun, much to the chagrin of his father. Next was the conversation about his possible bloodlines. Naruto-kun, there is a good chance that you are going to develop 2 bloodlines. The first being the Uzumaki chakra chains that, when properly trained, are pretty much unbreakable. Only certain Uzumakis get these, and there is a very good chance you will have them, since I did. You can't let anyone ever see these because they will know right away who you really are, said Kushina, trying to impress upon him how important this was. You may also develop the Sharingan. At this, Naruto flipped. I'm an Uchiha? Why do they treat me so bad if I am one of them? He puzzled. They don't know that you are. Just like they didn't know that I was. My father left the clan long ago, and I never belonged to the clan. His father explained. At hearing this, Naruto asked the obvious follow-up question. Who was your father? Madara Uchiha. But he died fighting Hashirama Senju at the end of that valley place. This shocked both of his parents at how smart he was. The Valley of the End. And no, he didn't. He was critically injured. He gave up fighting after that, but he taught me how to be a ninja before he died. He brought me to the village before he died and told me never to reveal my true heritage. Naruto could only nod at this before his mother got his attention. At this point, he was not sure what to expect. Naruto-kun, I think I should tell you about my parents too. My mother's name is Tsunade Senju, and my father was named Kenshiro Uzumaki. I know Toussaint is dead, but Ka-chan may still be alive. But she probably doesn't know about you if you have never met her. As Naruto was taking all this in, Kyuubi decided to speak. I believe I should introduce myself properly and make a few corrections to your parents' words, the Kyuubi said, getting weird looks from the boy's parents. My name is Kurama, and I will tell you more about myself when we have more time. You will not develop the Sharingan. At this, Minato looked disappointed, confused, and started asking questions. What do you mean he won't develop the Sharingan? Did I mess something up with the seal? He said frantically, hoping that he didn't cause his son to lose part of who he is. Naruto looked down too, but this didn't last for long. Let me finish and I will explain. I believe he will develop something called the Rinne Sharingan, also known as the Shur-no-Mi. Eyes of Death. This is a mix of the Rinnegan and Sharingan. Kurama explained. I don't understand. How is that possible? Asked a very confused Minato. Kurama explained that it was because he was the first to have the blood of the Uzumaki, Senju, and Uchiha since the mother of the Sage of Six Paths. These eyes were something that not even the sage wielded, deciding to elaborate more when Naruto actually awakened them. They then moved on to other matters such using the Kyuubi's chakra. They told him only to use it as a last resort, and there was no other way. Kushina showed him another chakra control exercises to push back this chakra should he ever pull too much and lose control, but told him to practice it away from people, just in case, until he mastered it and never where someone could sense him. When their time began to grow short, Minato decided he needed to get in some final explanations before they left. Kurama-san here is not the demon people believe him to be. He was forced to attack the village. At this, Kurama growled at the memory. He was a good friend to your mother, and he is going to be your friend and help you. They then told Naruto the full story of what happened the night he was born. Naruto looked up at the massive fox to see him nodding his head, and that made him smile. He would finally have a friend. At that time, Minato walked over to the gate and ripped a seal off, opening the gate. After their goodbyes, Naruto felt himself being pulled back into the real world. Naruto's bedroom. When Naruto woke up, it was the next morning. Rubbing the sleep out of his eyes, he spoke to himself, what a weird dream. There's no way they could have really been my parents, and the whole Kurama thing. Maybe I hit my head. It was not dream, Kit. I am very real. But you're so big, how do you fit? Asked Naruto. He just couldn't figure it out. Kurama chuckled a little before answering. Firstly, I am in a seal, as such size doesn't really matter. Second, don't speak out loud when you want to talk to me. Just think what you want to say and I will gear you. Don't want people thinking you've gone crazy or that I have taken you over. Okay. Okay, you mean like this? Naruto tried thinking his words. Yes, just like that. Now I have a few things to tell you. Since your father opened the seal, you are going to get some of my senses. You should be realizing about now that you can hear, see, and smell much better than before. As Kurama was saying this, Naruto noticed he could smell how old and dusty his apartment was. He could smell the garbage dumpsters outside his apartment complex, and even the food that the street vendors were selling a few blocks away thanks to his open window. He noticed that he could hear other people in his apartment complex having the breakfast table conversations. Sadly, many were about how they should move now that the demon lives there. He looked out his window and could see a great amount of detail on the Hokage monument. You're right, I can, but what is the other feeling I have? It's like I can feel some of the people here are angry, and some are happy. There are lots of other weird things too, Naruto said while trying to figure it out. That is the last sense that you have gained from me, the ability to sense emotions of all kinds, even intentions to a point. This will make it impossible for someone to sneak up on you, especially if they intend to harm you or someone near you. I see now. That is so cool, I'm going to be the best ninja ever. He shouted without loud, only to quickly slap his hand over his mouth. Oops. Alright, that's enough gloating. Head to a training ground that hasn't been used in a while. We are going to start your tour training, Kurama said with an evil smile Naruto could feel. 1 year later. Naruto was running again. It was his 6th birthday, and the Kyuubi festival was in full swing. This was the first attempt since his last birthday from anybody trying to hurt him. He knew he could escape from most of the pursuers with ease, but he also noticed that the 2 ANBU, who had been following him for the last year every time he left his home when he headed into town, were staying with the chase from the shadows. He could feel that they were angry but that it wasn't aimed at him. He would have just lost the others, but he didn't want anybody to know what he could do. Kurama had been working him into the ground 5 days a week and making him eat healthy. Combined with his already stamina from being both a Jinchuriki and Uzumaki, he could train for hours every day and still had energy to play with the few remaining friends he had on his off days. He mainly focused on chakra control and physical conditioning. He had learned how tree walk and water walk and was about to start on what they called the Academy 3. Henge, substitution, and clone jutsus. They had found that with enough practice he didn't need the control seal for tree and water walking, and that made Naruto was determined not to rely on it. Kurama told him the less he did the better of a ninja he would be. This time Naruto didn't make the mistake of turning down a dead end and instead headed for an open training ground. When he arrived he turned to face his pursuers. What do you want with me? I never did anything to you. Naruto snarled out. He knew why they were after him, but he had also figured out that before the ANBU could do anything they had to either attack him or break the Hokage's law about Kurama. What do we want with? Don't play dumb. You know what you did. You killed my parents' demon, stated a Chunin that was among the group. We are here to finish what the Yondaime started, stated another. Several others had similar things to say as they began to close on him. He wasn't worried though. As soon as they got within striking distance, the 2 ANBU he sensed flickered between him and the crowd. Within seconds the entire mob was unconscious and on the ground. It was then that the Hokage showed up with 10 more ANBU. Take these people to Ibiki and tell him to have fun, he sneered. Hai Hokage-sama, responded the men as they each grabbed 2 members of the mob and flickered away. The Hokage then turned to Naruto. Are you alright, Naruto-kun? He asked with worry in his eyes. I'm fine, Gigi. I am just glad those 2 were following me the whole time. This is the first time anybody has tried to hurt me since my last birthday. I figured it was because they, he motions to Dog and Weasel, were always following me. At this revelation Hiruzen was quite stunned. A 6-year-old boy knew 2 of his best ANBU had been following him the whole time. Dog and Weasel looked equally stunned, behind their masks, with a little bit of shame thrown in. Hiruzen just had to know how this was possible. Naruto-kun, how did you know they were there? Without hesitating he said, I can hear them. Kurama had told him this would be the best excuse to give because while it was true it was also the one that would garner the least suspicion. Naruto-kun, they are 2 of my best. What do you hear when they follow you? He was not ready for Naruto's response. Well, Gigi, when they move, they don't make any noise, but their heartbeats always give them away. This seemingly simple answer set the old Hokage's head spinning. He can hear someone's heartbeat. I wonder if this is because of the fox. It doesn't sound like what I would expect, but I will have to keep better watch from now on. Though Hiruzen, while looking for any trace of a lie, he again saw something that told him he was telling the truth, but that there might be more to it than he let on. 4 months later, rooftop of Naruto's apartment building. Naruto was enjoying the cool night air. This was the first time since his 5th birthday that he didn't see, hear, smell, or sense Dog and Weasel. They had taken off about 20 minutes ago in quite a hurry. Naruto had heard their radios say something about a possible kidnapping in the clan district. He didn't think much of it, and used it as an excuse to relax and be himself for the first time in a long time. Sure, he let them see him train, but to the outside observer it looked just like anything that the clan children would normally do. As Naruto was sitting there, something caught his attention. Pure unbridled fear, coming from one person, and a small amount of fear mixed with cautious joy. These emotions were a new combination to him, and he decided to ask Kurama what this could mean. Hey Kurama, do you sense that? He asked in his head. Yes. It could be the kidnapped victim and kidnapper. If that is the case, then they have made it past the NBU. We should probably go check it out. Yeah, you're right. It would be right to just leave them to their fate. Not if I want to be Hokage someday. With that, he jumped off in the direction of the kidnapper. When he crossed the kidnapper's scent and caught the scent of the victim, he saw red. Hinata-chan, he growled out. They took Hinata-chan. He was unconsciously channeling some of Kurama's chakra to his muscles to give him some extra speed as he raced in the direction of the scent. It only took him about 5 minutes to catch up with the kidnapper, and to his horror all he saw was a guy dressed in black with a sack on his back. The fear he could sense and Hinata's scent were both coming from the bag. Before the man realized he was there, Naruto had launched a kunai at the man's arm holding the sack. It was only through many years of experience that he managed to dodge the kunai. Who did that? Asked the man, turning around and seeing no one. He was dressed in all black, the only thing showing were a pair of dark green eyes. As he was scanning the area for his attacker, another kunai came from the side. This time his eyes landed on Naruto, who was doing his best to come up with a plan now that he had been spotted. It's just a kid. Get out of here before I kill you, kid. Quit trying to be a hero. He sneered at Naruto. He couldn't believe he thought that he would have a fight on his hands. He didn't have time to mess around with a kid. Give back Hinata-chan, Naruto demanded, trying not to show any fear. He could feel how strong the man was and knew he would be no match for him. Any ideas, Kurama? He asked to the fox. Just one, but it might hurt. What is it? Flare my chakra as high as you can handle, then try to keep him busy until every ninja in the village shows up. That sounds painful. Plus, what's going to happen after this? If you think they hate me now, wait until this is over. Naruto deadpanned back. Do you have a better idea? Sadly, no. With that, Naruto gathered as much of Kurama's chakra as he could take and released it all at once. Just as the fox promised, it hurt a lot. It also accomplished his goal, as every ninja in the village was awake and headed in their direction, fearing the worst. When he was hit by the chakra flare, the kidnapper's eyes went as wide as they could. He had felt chakra like this before, and he wanted no part of it. Jinchuriki were bad news no matter how old they were. He was about to turn and run when he noticed that Naruto faltered a little bit, obviously in a lot of pain. He realized that he couldn't use his Biju and opted to take the boy with him, or kill him to weaken Konoha. It was win-win for him. He rushed Naruto in an attempt to knock him out as quickly as possible. Kurama had meanwhile made sure Naruto's gravity and resistance seals were all the way off. With this speed boost, Naruto managed to avoid the worst of the assault but was still knocked into a tree, but was not hurt too bad. The attacker tried again, this time going for a full-force kick in the stomach. He landed it but hadn't noticed the kunai in Naruto's hand. The force of the kick nearly folded Naruto in half. At the same time, Naruto had somehow tracked the incoming kick and made an attempt to stab the leg of the attacker. Due to a combination of the two, Naruto succeeded in stabbing the cloaked man in the side of the thigh. You little brat, looks like you have to die. I can't carry you, both of you, with a hurt leg. Oh well, not my problem. He sneered as he approached the boy, preparing to kill him. Just as he went to stab the half-conscious blonde in the heart, he was suddenly thrown back. Naruto had seen, through blurry vision, the man in black approach. He could feel pain in his stomach, but that seemed like nothing compared to the burning coming from his eyes. As the man aimed his kunai at Naruto's chest, his eyes quit burning and everything suddenly became much clearer. Time seemed to slow, and he could see where the kunai would him. Out of pure instinct, he raised his hands and muttered Shinra Tensei, only to see the masked man fly backwards. He managed to stand up and looked at the bag containing Hinata had been dropped 20 meters to the side of where the two were no facing each other. When the masked man regained his bearings and met Naruto's eyes, he felt a fear that he hadn't in a long time. The boy's eyes were red with black pupils and ripples surrounding the center. There were 2 tomo on the first ripple in each eye. Having never seen or heard of this Dijitsu, he decided to grab his prize and leave while he still had a chance to outrun the ninjas that were no doubt closing on their position. Looking between the boy and the bag containing the young, and most importantly unbranded, Hyuga, he made his choice and darted towards the bag. Just as he was almost there, it was suddenly gone. Naruto had seen the fear in his eyes and his brief internal debate before he bolted for the bag containing Hinata. Acting on instinct again, he pointed his hands towards the bag and whispered Bansho Tenin. With that, the bag that had Hinata flew into his hands just before the masked ninja could grab it. Placing Hinata behind him, he pulled out his last kunai and spoke. If you want her, you have to get through me. He tried to act brave, but his voice still came out shaky. Not wanting to waste any more time, the man charged and plunged a kunai into Naruto's left lung. He thought he had won until he felt warm liquid running down his chest and lots of pain in his throat. He had stabbed the boy, but the boy had used his single-minded focus to get him as well. The last thing the man saw was Naruto's red eyes staring down at him with pain and fear. Hinata had crawled out just in time to see Naruto get hit and stab the other ninja at the same time. As the masked man fell, Naruto fell to his knees. Before he could fall face first, Hinata caught him. "Naruto-kun." She tried to go on but was sobbing, thinking he was going to die, and it was all her fault. "Hinata-chan," he got her attention, "don't tell anyone about what you are going to see." She looked at him confused but nodded nonetheless. With that, focused chakra into his medical seal, placed a glowing green over his wound, and began healing his own wound. Hinata had to blink to make sure she wasn't seeing things. When he stopped, Hinata couldn't believe her eyes. Her best friend had been dying a few minutes ago, and now his fatal wound was all but healed. He was very tired and still had many cuts and scrapes, but none of them were life-threatening. She was about to ask him how he did that when Dog and Weasel showed up. Before they could do more than assess the situation and the children, the Hokage and his squad of ANBU arrived on the scene. Seeing Hinata kneeling next to Naruto, who was still covered in his own blood with Dog standing between him and a dead man dressed in all black with a kunai still in his throat, he was able to put the event of what happened together pretty quick. "Naruto-kun, Hinata-chan, are you two okay?" he asked. Hinata started to speak up. "Naruto's hurt," but Naruto interrupted her. "I'm fine, Gigi. Just a few cuts and bruises, I'll be fine in the morning," he said, told the old Kage while giving Hinata a pleading look that asked her to let it go for now. After speaking with Dog and getting a brief description of what he believes happened while Weasel attended to Hinata and Naruto. When they finished speaking, 2 more ANBU squads showed up, along with half the Hyuga clan. Hiruzen had the ANBU turn back all the ninjas that had come to stop the Kyuubi, saying everything was under control. While relieved, Hayashi had a reputation to protect and couldn't have his daughter associated with the boy in front of this many members of his clan. "What happened here? Who is that man?" Hayashi asked as the ANBU went to unmask the now dead kidnapper. When his mask was pulled off, it was revealed to be the ambassador from Kumo that had left earlier that day after signing a new treaty with Konoha. It became immediately obvious that the treaty was a pretext to get into the village. The Hokage decided he would fill in the rest. It would appear that Naruto tracked down the Kumonin and delayed him long enough for Dog and Weasel to arrive. It also appears that the chakra surge came from when he was injured attempting to save young Hinata-chan. The Hokage explained, tried to give certain details while at the same time keeping it as vague as possible. Seeing that there was more to the story but nothing he would get to hear tonight, Hayashi decided to take his leave. "Hinata-kun, we must leave. Your mother took a turn for the worse because of this, and you must stay away from that boy. He is not safe," Hayashi said while throwing an apologetic glance at Naruto, one that the Hokage caught and made a mental note to check up on later. Hinata was confused but went with her father quietly, concerned for her mother winning out over her curiosity of her father's treatment of Naruto. "Naruto-kun, I think we better talk in my office," Sarutobi said with no mirth in his voice. Naruto merely nodded and followed. Hokage's office. When they got into his office, Naruto sat in a chair in front of the Hokage's desk and Hiruzen sat in his chair behind the desk. "Okay, Naruto, I want the full story. I know that you did the first chakra pulse on purpose to get everyone's attention. What I want to know it how." Seeing no way around it, he spoke. "Could you ask your ANBU to leave? I only want to tell you." Hiruzen's eyes went wide. "How did you know there are ANBU in here?" Naruto just sighed and responded with, "Well, you already know I can hear their heartbeats, but I can see and smell them as well." This worried Sarutobi even more. Even he couldn't see them. He waved them out and 3 out of 4 left people in the room left. Naruto just looked at Sarutobi expectantly and got a confused look in return. "What about him?" Naruto asked while pointing to left side of his bookcase. In a flash that Naruto couldn't even see, Hiruzen had moved to where Naruto pointed and put a kunai through the man's throat, dispelling his chameleon jutsu in the process. Seeing a blank white mask with any on it, he instantly knew who the man served. "Danzo," he ground out, always putting his nose where it doesn't belong. "Who is Danzo?" Naruto asked. "Danzo is the man who tried to adopt you over 2 years ago. This is what he wanted to turn you into," he said, pointing at the now dead root agent, figuring this would be a good opportunity to keep Naruto away from Danzo. Naruto only shuddered, glad that didn't happen to him. "Now, Naruto-kun, you have only raised more questions than answered. So first off, how did you see, hear, and smell my agents?" Naruto looked to be in thought, but really he had a short conversation with Kurama. "What should I tell him?" he asked. "Everything minus my cage being unlocked, your bloodlines, my helping you, your parents seeing you on all your birthdays, you absorbing their knowledge, and any other functions that of the seal that he doesn't know about," was the response he was given. Giving an internal nod, he went back to his conversation to speaking with the Hokage. To Hiruzen it looked like he was just looking for a place to start. Well, let's go back to the beginning. Do you want to tell me who my parents are? Naruto asked with a smirk. Something tells me you already know, Hiruzen countered cautiously. Naruto nodded and started to explain meeting the fox on his 5th birthday and his parents, leaving out the second and all future meetings he would have along with opening the cage. He explained how his senses got better because of the fox and he gained the abilities to sense emotions. He explained how he was stabbed by the Kumo ninja before he killed him and healed himself, being sure to leave out his eye problems. He still hadn't had a chance to speak to Kurama about that. Hiruzen interrupted him when he got to the part where he said he could see the ANBU again. How do you see them? He asked, curious. Easy, Naruto started. When someone uses the chameleon jutsu, their control is not just perfect, it leaves a small outline wherever they touch a solid object. Most people can't see well enough to notice it, but I have no problem seeing it. Nodding and understanding, he allowed Naruto to finish, then warned Naruto not to tell anyone who his parents are. I have known for over a year and haven't said anything. Do you think I would just go start telling people that now? I don't want that kind of attention. Plus, I doubt they would believe me, he finished in a sad tone. Sarutobi nodded, sadly agreeing with Naruto. As Naruto got up to leave, there was a knock at the door. The Hokage called out for the person to enter, and Hayashi Hyuga walked into the office. Good, you are still here, Naruto-san. I wish to apologize for what I said earlier. I only did it for Hinata's safety. Hayashi started, unsure of how to proceed without causing too much trouble for him. He wasn't allowed to say anything about the Kyuubi to Naruto, and that would make his explanation very hard. Naruto, however, stepped in and surprised him. I know, Hayashi-sama. Your clan elders see me as the Kyuubi. When Naruto said this, Hayashi's eye went wide. He couldn't believe he knew. He threw a glare at Hiruzen, who put his hands up and said, he found out on his own. Naruto gave a short version, leaving much out but enough that he would seem truthful. I have already spoken with Hitomi-sama about this. She told me not to take it personally and that you don't hate me. Just that you would have to act that way in front of others. Yes, I see. Very well, I must attend to Hitomi-chan as the stress on tonight has caused her illness to accelerate. I am beginning to suspect foul play and don't want to be away from her side for too long. With that, he turned to leave before Naruto stopped him. If all else fails, I will try something I learned on a while ago. I don't know if it will work on anybody but me, but if nothing else does, it's worth a shot. Naruto said, sounding far too mature for his age. Hayashi nodded and left. 3 weeks later. Naruto had been right. Flaring Kurama's chakra had been an idea filled with problems. Now when he walked down the street, he got not only glares, but he also noticed that almost every shinobi he passed would subtly move their hand to the kunai holster. They must have thought he was a serious threat now. He had not been able to do any training. He was followed not only by ANBU but also by random ninja he could feel intent on doing him harm. They never got too close before either dog or weasel intercepted them. A part of him was really sad that they had reacted this way. It wasn't unexpected but still made him sad. He was only trying to save Hinata. He wouldn't take back his actions, but he still hated the consequences. He had not seen Hinata, and as far as he could tell, she had not left the Hyuga compound. He didn't know, but all that was about to change. He was headed to the park hoping to see some of his friends. He'd seen Ino, Chuji, and Shikamura once since the incident. They asked him if he had felt that scary feeling that washed over the village, and if he knew what it was. He had lied and said he didn't know or feel it. Their parents had been there, and could see the lie in his eyes, but said nothing. They had been told what happened that night, and they themselves didn't really know what to think. Council Chambers Day after kidnapping. The chamber was filled with both sides of the council in full attendance. They were shouting all manner of things back and forth when the Hokage entered, took his seat, called for order, and silence. Okay, now that I have your attention, what is the meaning of this meeting? He asked calmly. He wanted to see where this was going. He already had a good idea but still wanted to hear it from them. The leader of the civilian side of the council stood and addressed him. We are here to ask for the execution the demon known as Naruto Uzumaki. The man spoke calmly like it was the obvious course of action after what occurred the previous night. Denied. And let me remind you that my law still applies. He said with a fair amount of killer intent to get his point across. He figured they would beat around the bush a little bit and not jump straight to execution. He could already feel a headache coming on while rubbing his temples. A second member of the civilian council stood up to protest. You can't be serious, Hokage-sama. Last night the beast was testing its power. If what was felt was any indication, its strength is returning. It will destroy the village if we allow it to continue to regain its former strength. He tried to reason with the rest of the civilians side, shouting their agreement with him. Silence. Naruto is not the beast, he is the container that holds the beast. He is one of the greatest heroes this village has ever seen and proved so again last night. Hiruzen shouted. He couldn't believe the ignorance of these people. For the first time one of the clan heads spoke. How does using its chakra makes him a hero? Asked a skeptical Tsume Inuzuka. Tsum had a fierce look to her. Slit pupils in her eyes, wild hair, Inuzuka fawn tattoos on her face, and red eye shadow. She didn't hate Naruto for being a Jinchuriki, but he smelled like a fox and the Inuzuka's dog-like instincts made them natural enemies. So rather than it being hateful towards the boy, her clan simply avoided any interaction with him. The Hokage looked at Hayashi, asking if it was alright to tell them the story. Hayashi gave a slight nod. Last night Hinata Hyuga was kidnapped by the ambassador from Kumo. He turned out to be one of their best jonin who was sent on an undercover mission to kidnap an unbranded Hyuga female. This earned many gasps and looks to Hayashi, who just gestured for the Hokage to continue. The kidnapper managed to slip past all of the ANBU and the entire Hyuga clan. He was however found by Naruto. This statement sent a wave of confusion through the council. You mean to tell me a 6-year-old managed to track down a man that eluded both the ANBU and Hyuga? How did he manage that? Tsume Inuzuka was not happy about this little bit of info. Most of the ANBU tracker force was made of Inuzuka and Hyuga. She felt insulted, thinking that the Hokage had insinuated that they weren't as capable as a 6-year-old. With a sigh, Hiruzen began. Naruto seems to have a highly developed sense of hearing, sight, and smell. The kidnapper passed close to his home, and when he didn't recognize the scent, he decided to follow. He told me he recognized the second scent that he knew was a child because he had smelled it on the playground before, once he found the kidnapper's trail. This carefully concocted lie was to protect Hinata from the clan elders who would never approve of her being friends with Naruto. He followed the trail until he caught up with the kidnapper and told me he only saw a person dressed all in black carrying a sack. The release of Kyuubi chakra that was felt came after Naruto was stabbed in the process of trying to rescue Hinata. He must have unconsciously channeled it in order to heal his wound enough to not bleed out. He managed to survive long enough for help to arrive. Dog and Weasel were the first on the scene and killed the Kumo ninja before tending to Naruto and Hinata. Only Hayashi, Hiruzen, Dog, and Weasel knew that was not how events played out, but had been ordered to tell that story if anyone asked. They were to never speak of the true events of that night before Naruto became a ninja. The meeting ended soon after this, with most of the civilian being an extremely disappointed wish showed in the look on their faces. Back at the park. Naruto was just about to leave the park. Ino, Shikamaru, and Chuji had been taken home by their parents, and no one was there. He had been hoping to see Hinata when she came around the corner with her sister. It was the first time she had seen him since that night. He started to walk over to her when someone stepped in between them. What do you think you're doing, demon? You stay away from Lady Hinata and Lady Hanabi. I wanted to ask Hinata-chan if she was okay. I haven't seen her since it happened, said Naruto, confused on why this person would try to keep them apart. Didn't he know they were friends? All of the Hyuga knew Naruto had been there that night, but only one knew exactly what role he had played. Many of them wanted to blame him for her kidnapping, but Hayashi put a stop to that immediately, saying Naruto was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, and had nothing to do with her kidnapping. Hyugas do not associate with your kind, demon. You will stay away from them if you know what is good for you. At this point Naruto was almost in tears. He had just wanted to see Hinata and make sure she was okay. He wanted to make sure she wasn't mad at him since he hadn't seen her in so long, and ask how Hitomi-sama was. He just barely managed to catch a glimpse of her. Both her and Hanabi had tears in their eyes. He could see this was not what they wanted, and turned to leave. He knew it had to be something the elders had planned. They must have appointed a guardian that hated him to keep him away from them while Hitomi was recovering. It was one of his worst days in a long time. Almost 2 years later. Naruto was excited. Tomorrow was the first day of the academy. He had been training hard and was ready to show what he could do. Just as he was getting ready to go to bed, Kurama spoke to him. Kit, we need to talk about tomorrow. Okay, what about tomorrow? You can't show your true strength. In fact, you should probably barley pass. Naruto became very confused. Why would I do that? I will easily be the best one there. I am stronger than most genins already. I could probably graduate in 1 year. Naruto ranted. Kurama was trying to stay calm. He may have grown quite attached to the boy, but that didn't mean he didn't want to strangle him sometimes. I know how strong you are. But you are not strong enough to defend yourself from all threats. That damn civilian council would surely try to have you killed. They probably will try to have you killed even if you take the full 8 years to graduate. Take that time to become stronger than anyone they could send after you. Naruto laid his head down and thought. Kurama made a good point and had never done anything that harmed him unless it would make him stronger in the long run. Although practicing water walking in a hot spring had been pushing it. Okay, I will hide my strength. But I am not going to get pounded into the ground either. You don't have to let yourself but look totally weak, but I would recommend losing most matches unless it's to someone truly weak. Naruto only gave an internal nod before going to sleep. Next day. Naruto woke up excited. Today was his first day at the academy, and he would finally get to spend time with Hinata without being chased off. He got to see Hinata every now and then, but only a few times had she been with her mother, who was looking worse and worse, meaning that they were free to interact. But now she would not have a guard and he would be able to see her and talk to her most of the day. Naruto ate his cereal in a rush, wanting to get the day started as soon as he could. He rushed out the door and hesitated when he didn't hear, smell, or feel anybody following him. He knew that starting to his ANBU guards would no longer be there. They were getting short-staffed, so the Hokage could no longer afford to have anyone guard Naruto. It would have made him look untrusting of his own ninja to keep ANBU guards following Naruto when they were needed for village security. Not mention it would look bad to the teachers if they saw Naruto being followed by ANBU. Naruto ran through the village ignoring the glares and looks of hatred. It was harder to ignore all the negative emotions he always felt from people around him, but he had learned to cope. Being able to feel the hatred as well as see it had been incredibly difficult to deal with. It didn't take him very long to reach the academy, and he saw a few of the older kids there already. Most were doing some kind of training or another, but all that came to a stop when he came through the gate. The three oldest classes knew exactly what he had inside him, and he could see the looks of hatred from them. It appeared the kids in the next 4 grades down didn't care for him much either. Most of their parents had likely said to stay away from him and that he was evil. He decided he would avoid the upperclassmen and just go sit on the swing until the bell rang to go in. He had just sat down when 3 people began to approach him. He was looking the other direction as they tried to silently approach him. They may as well have been playing drum and shouting their intentions. He could easily hear their footsteps and feel the anger coming off them. He quickly spoke to Kurama. How should I handle this? I know you said to not show my strength, but I will get pummeled if I hold back too much. Let's see how this plays out before we make any rash decisions. Naruto only gave Kurama an internal sigh before he spoke. What do you 3 want? Naruto asked when the group got about 10 feet from him. When Naruto asked this, the 3 ninja in training stopped. They were sure they were undetected before he spoke. Not only that, but he knew how many were in the group and he had not even turned towards them. What are you doing here, monster? The apparent leader sneered. Going to class same as you. Naruto answered without looking back. He didn't know if his face gave away how he felt, but he knew his voice wouldn't. I don't think we can allow a monster like you in here, said another. Yeah, looks like we will have to take care of you ourselves, said the last. I don't want any trouble, guys. Please leave me alone. Naruto tried to remain calm, but on the inside he was starting to panic. How could he get out of this one when they would leave? Oh, there won't be any trouble. For us at least, the leader said before charging Naruto and throwing a punch aimed at the back of his head. Naruto made a quick decision to take part of the hit and turn just enough so he would get hit but not have any real injury. Landing on the ground and pretending to be hurt while trying to come up with a plan to get out of this. As the second boy began his charge, he was suddenly grabbed by the shirt collar and thrown to the side. Standing there was Weasel. How disgraceful. 3 Uchihas going after a lone boy with no training and half their age. Is this what has become of a once noble clan? Attacking children to make yourselves feel better? As Weasel spoke, you could see the anger in their eyes. You know what he is, and you still defend him? You're a fool like the rest. He will kill us all. The third boy tried to reason, but Weasel wasn't having any of it. Attack him again, and there will be no place for weaklings like you in the ninja ranks. Weasel told them, ushering them to class before turning to Naruto. Are you alright, Naruto-kun? Yeah. Thank for the help. I didn't know how I was going to get out of that one without showing some of my strength. Indeed, was Weasel's only response. He had seen some of Naruto's training and knew he could defend himself when need be. Naruto went to the classroom and was happy to see all his friends. There were some people he didn't recognize. The first being a feral-looking boy named Kiba Inuzuka. A boy with a high collar and sunglasses named Shino Aburame. A girl with pink hair that he thought was cool at first until he heard her shriek, Sasuke Kyuubi. Both he and Kiba had to cover their ears for fear of going deaf. The banshee known as Sakura Harino was of course talking about Sasuke Uchiha, the youngest son of Fugaku Uchiha, the Uchiha clan head. He found out that most people in his class, him included although only he knew, were clan heirs. He spotted Hinata in the back and went to sit in the empty seat next to her. Hey Hinata-chan. I am so glad we are in the same class. Hinata was deep in though, and never even saw her friend come in. She had been worried about so many things. First, her mother was still sick and only getting worse right after it seemed she would recover. Then her father had started to change. He was becoming cold, and his training harsh. On top of all that, she had barely been allowed to see Naruto. Her and Hanabi missed him. They would see him around town, but every time he would try to talk to them, Ko, their guard, would chase him away, calling him a demon. So, she was surprised when she heard him right next to her. Eep, she squealed and jumped at his voice. Naruto-kun, it's good to see you again. I missed you so much. I missed you too. At least now we get to see each other every day. How is your mom, by the way? At this, Hinata's mood took a downturn. She isn't doing well. Every time she starts to make a recovery, she relapses and it gets worse. They don't know what it is. Just that she's had it since she had Hanabi. Hinata said with a sadness in her voice. Just let me know if there is anything I can do for you, Hinata. Anything. Naruto tried to reassure her. At this time, a man in a Chunin vest came in the room. He had a scar across the bridge of his nose and his brown hair tied up. Good morning, class. My name is Irika Yumino. You may call me Irika-sensei, said Irika, greeting the class. After taking roll, he decided to go over what they would be learning about the next 8 years. Naruto ignored basically everything he said in favor of thinking about his training outside of school and how much this was going to slow him down. Don't worry, kid. Tonight I'll teach you a jutsu that will make it so you can go to school and train. Thanks, Kurama. I don't know if I could get through this without killing myself. This sounds so boring. Day after Naruto's 9th birthday, Naruto's apartment. Naruto had been in the academy for a little over a year. Just like last year, he hadn't gone to school on his birthday. He never left his house on his birthday after his 6th. He would always lock the door and just hide in his room, deciding not to expose himself to the hate anymore. He could take care of himself, sure, but he wasn't going to take the chance that some higher rank ninjas would come after him. He had been especially nervous about this one. This was his first birthday of truly being on his own since his 5th. No ENBU to protect him, and almost everybody knew where he lived. He was surprised though. The villagers didn't seem to take the chance to go after him. He could only think that it was because they remembered what would happen in the past if they tried. They would be arrested and spend a considerable time with the IT department. Something none of them ever wanted to repeat. After a visit, they would blame the pain they experienced on him and become even more ardent in their hate for him. It was a cycle he didn't wish to perpetuate. As he walked out of his apartment to head to the academy, he felt 5 chakra signatures close in on him. He could feel their emotions and he knew they were after him. He didn't know what they wanted though. This was a new emotion to him, and he didn't know how to describe it. The only thing he knew for sure is that they were all Uchihas. What do you think, Kurama? Should we run, fight, or talk? If this is what I think it is, we need to cooperate, or at least make it seem like we are cooperating. Activate your eyes but hid them. Naruto did as Kurama told him using a genjutsu and started to walk to school. He only made it to the stairwell before he was forced to look directly into the Sharingan eyes of an Uchiha Jonin. His eyes, being more powerful, saw through the genjutsu right away but acted like he did not. Come along, weapon, we have a village to take over, said the Jonin as he led Naruto away. They soon arrived at the Uchiha compound. I have brought the Kyuubi as asked. He is in my full control. Good. With it we can take over this village easy and kill the Hyugas once and for all, said an unknown voice from behind Naruto. Uchiha compound noon. The Uchiha compound was a flurry of activity. Almost the entire Uchiha police force was currently in the compound, moving supplies and barricading houses. Only a skeleton crew that was necessary to keep up appearances was patrolling the village. Most of this was being done in almost total silence. The ninja Uchiha were trying to protect the civilian and young members of their clan. What were they protecting them from, you ask? Tonight they were planning a coup d'etat. They had been led to believe that they were being denied their right to rule. The Hokage was old and still hadn't picked a successor. They believed that it should be one of them, but he wouldn't budge. He stuck to his belief that none of them had the will of fire required for the job. The only one that he believed did was still too young to handle the job. So here they were preparing for war. They had told the civilian and children that they were doing an emergency preparedness drill and that it would last until morning, and that is why the only one allowed to leave the compound today was Sasuke. This being because to not have him go would arouse suspicions. Most other Uchihas would be in their district anyway, since only a few besides the police worked outside the district. Naruto was currently standing in the room with the clan's council. He had been ordered no to leave Fugaku's side until given other orders. Fugaku wanted his weapon where he could see it at all time, just in case someone decided to back out. They would not be able to take the Kyuubi with them. We will start with a distraction near the gates to draw the on-duty ANBU and flank them when they arrive. I will take the Kyuubi and unleash it on the Hyuga before they can realize what's happening and respond. That should draw the Hokage and most of his loyal ANBU. At that point myself, Itachi, and Shursui should be enough to take down the old monkey. While we do that, the Kyuubi should have killed all the Hyuga, minus the 2 heiresses who you, he says pointing at a Chunin, will secure and bring back here. Make sure some of their blood is found to make it look like they are dead. We will keep them alive to see if it is possible to merge the Byakugan with the Sharingan. After the Kyuubi take care of the Hyuga, we turn him toward the ANBU. Any questions? Asked Fugaku after going over the plan one last time. What do we do when the other clans get involved? Asked a Jonin Uchiha. If all goes according to plan, the most of the clan ninja are either out of the village on missions or should be too slow to figure out what is happening in time to respond. We need all of this to happen within 30 minutes to have the best possible chance of success. Danzo as his route will be staying out of this. He too wishes to see strong leadership restored. Sir, no one has seen Shursui for 2 days and Itachi is currently performing his ANBU duties. Another Uchiha informed Fugaku. Find Shursui and don't worry about Itachi, he will be here just before we launch the plan. Fugaku said, confident that Itachi would be loyal to his clan. Naruto had been listening to the whole thing with a growing sense of both dread and anger. He couldn't believe that Itachi would betray the Hokage. Not after every Itachi had done for him. He had figured out Itachi's identity long ago. It took everything he had not to betray the emotions he was feeling on his face. He was supposed to be in a genjutsu. Then there was Sasuke. He didn't like him much because he seemed to think he was better than everyone, but he still didn't think his family would do something like this. Sure, the Uchiha had mistreated him, but they were never anything other than condescendingly polite to most of the villagers. We launch tonight dusk. Fugaku said, closing the meeting so they could get back to work. Hokage's office same time. While the Uchiha were making preparations, so was the Hokage. He was currently in a meeting with the advisors minus Danzo and Itachi on the situation. The attack will start tonight at dusk. Itachi informed the rest. It has come to a head this soon? What can you tell me of their plans? Itachi told them the general attack plan, and then he dropped a bombshell that made the Hokage scene red. They kidnapped Naruto-kun this morning after he locked his apartment door. He never showed up at the academy. I couldn't stop them without giving myself away. He was put in genjutsu and lead to the Uchiha compound. The plan to use his memories of what they will make him do to break him. Then Danzo has a Yamanaka who will perform their mind destruction jutsu to make him nothing more than a mindless weapon. Itachi continued, giving a full rundown of the plan. What else can we do? They must be eliminated. Everyone that is willingly taking part in this attempted coup. The Hokage ordered. This was one of the hardest orders he would have to give. But who could carry out an order like that? The Uchiha clan isn't known as one of the elites for nothing. Asked Hamura. They didn't really have any ninja that could pull off a mission like that without being caught. Not to mention that whoever did this will have to label the criminal to preserve our reputation with the other major villages. It would show weakness if a clan rose up against its Kage because they believed the leadership was weak. Kohara pointed out. I will do it, said Itachi, getting wide-eyed looks from the other three. Itachi, I can't ask you to do this. It's your family. It's one thing that you know it will be an order given to someone, but I can't order you to kill your own family, reasoned Hiruzen. He had done things he was not proud of, but this would take the cake if he made one of his own ninja kill his own clan. I was not asking, Hokage-sama. This is the only way to preserve the honor of my clan going forward. It has to be me. If they are talking down by the strongest of them, it will look better for everyone than if some faceless assassin does. They plan to attack tonight. I must go and prepare. With that, Itachi left, leaving Hiruzen and the others to wait for the inevitable storm that was to come. Uchiha compound 2 hours before attack. Fugaku-sama! Shouted an Uchiha Chunin, coming into the room where they were making final preparations. He was pale and out of breath, and that caught the other attention if his shouting hadn't. What is it? Asked Fugaku, hopping. It was only a minor issue. He still had not heard from Itachi, and was stating to worry about him. We found Shursui's body. His eyes are gone. The Chunin responded with no small amount of worry in his voice. Damn it. What of Itachi? I still haven't heard from him. No word yet, but he may still be attending his ANBU duties. He would stay to complete anything asked of him so as not to arouse suspicions, responded another Chunin. Very well, begin to mobilize and get in position. I want the squad at the gate in 1 hour, the rest with me. We move out in 90 minutes. Ichai, they all responded. Forest outside Uchiha compound. Itachi had just finished off the last of the squad that was supposed to be headed to the gate, and started making his way to the compound. This was quickly becoming the hardest thing he had ever done. He knew he would hate himself tomorrow, but he could not let them kill so many innocent people and would never be able to live with himself if he allowed all his father's plans to come to fruition. Flashback. Fugaku had just explained his invasion plan to Itachi and the rest of the Uchiha Council and was taking questions. The first one was, "Why do you plan to keep the girls alive when killing them would be the end of all Hyugas?" asked an elder. He kept his voice as neutral as possible, but one could still hear annoyance in his tone. "I know this may seem strange, but let me fully explain without interruption, and it will become more clear. The Byakugan surpasses the Sharingan in only 3 things: range of sight, range of vision, and ability to see through objects, correct? Hi. What would happen if we could incorporate even one of those into the Sharingan? I have no guarantee that it could work, but they are the only unbranded females, the only unbranded children that we could easily control. If it can't be done, it can't be done, but if it can, it will make it impossible to hide any technique from us ever again." "So you plan to use them as breeding experiments?" asked another elder. "Hi. That is a dangerous game you are playing, father," spoke Itachi. "That sounds like something Orochimaru would do." "It is a necessary evil. They will be kept in genjutsu so as not to suffer needlessly," was Fugaku's only response. End flashback. Itachi came out of reminiscing just in time as he had arrived at the compound. He could see the main force gathering just outside what had become headquarters. There were only 5 stragglers running here and they're finishing last-minute items. The main force was a good 60 strong. He decided to pick of the stragglers and set some traps to try and whittle the numbers down. Silently creeping up behind the first, he stabs his blade through the ninja's heart, while covering his mouth before dragging his body behind a building out of sight. He repeats this on the other 4, after which he slowly makes his way around to the main gathering, setting up traps. Kunai launchers on top of the surrounding buildings to catch anyone that tries to gain the height advantage, and explosive tags with tripped wires at all door and ground exits. Getting into position, he takes 2 kunai with high-powered explosive tags and throws them into the back of the crowd. Boom! At least 10 ninja lay in pieces, their bones becoming shrapnel, causing injury to the next row of ninja. Panic and confusion set in. The smoke was too thick to see through, and that's when Itachi moved in like a wraith, cutting down his family one by one. He got cut a few times from some that had managed to defend themselves, if only for a short time. About 30 escaped, including his father, who was currently the one controlling Naruto. When he could sense no more life in the building, Itachi slowly made his way outside. The last 30 Uchiha ninja were waiting for him. When Itachi emerged to face the remainder of his clan, their looks of shock and betrayal nearly stopped him in his tracks. The only thing that kept him going was seeing Naruto staring at him with a mindless glaze in his eyes. The Uchihas that had made it outside had no idea what was going on. They only knew that they were under attack. When Itachi emerged from the double door of the building, they were speechless. It had been one of their own that had attacked them. Not just anyone either, but the future clan head. "What is the meaning of this, Itachi? Have you gone mad?" screamed Fugaku. His face held a look of pure rage. His own son had betrayed him. "Father, you cannot win this fight. You would succeed only in weakening Konoha and shaming our clan. I cannot allow you to harm so many innocent people because of your imagined slights." Having heard enough, Fugaku ordered them to attack. Itachi used their rush to his advantages and manually set off the kunai launchers. With the ninja distracted, he cut their number by a further 20. When the dust cleared, Itachi found himself surrounded by the remaining 10 Uchihas and Naruto. "Release Naruto and send him away. We don't want him to remember this, and let our clan be shamed." Itachi tried to command, but with his exhaustion and injury his voice came out broken and panting. "I have a better idea. Weapon attack and block no incoming strikes," Fugaku commanded. High was Naruto's emotionless response as he began forward, pulling a kunai from the pouch he had been given. As he approached Itachi, he got his attention by looking him straight in the eyes and winking. Itachi saw Naruto start forward and pull his kunai. He was trying to think how to break his control while sparring him the knowledge of what had been planned for him. When he looked in Naruto's eye again, he notices that they were not dull anymore, they were fully aware, and then he winked. When he winked, Itachi realized that they never truly had control of Naruto. Just as Naruto gets close to Itachi, the other Uchihas start going through hand signs for various fire jutsus. Seeing this, Itachi starts his own hand seals, hoping to finish first and get him and Naruto away. Before the Uchihas can finish, 10 golden shoot out of Naruto's back, surprising even him. They bind the remaining Uchihas, stopping them from preforming their jutsus. Itachi quickly took advantage of the situation, killing all but his father before Naruto could unbind them. Naruto-kun, I'm sorry this had to happen, Itachi starts but is interrupted by Naruto. It's not your fault. I heard everything. I know you tried to stop them and they didn't listen. I need you to promise me something, Naruto. What is it? He asks. You can't tell anyone what happened here tonight. I promise I will never speak of it. I'm sorry to put you through this. But you must leave now. Sasuke is coming and I need him to see me finish this. With that last farewell, Naruto left to return home. He wouldn't show up to the academy the next few days, trying to come to grips with everything he had seen. He didn't know how he would be able to look at Sasuke again. 1 year later. It had been a long year. Kurama was putting Naruto the ringer as far as training went, and he had started to absorb his parent knowledge on taijutsu and kenjutsu. Knowing the shadow clone made getting the forms down and practicing easier. Kurama had taught it to him the second day of school so Naruto could attend class and have his clones study and work on chakra control. He would make an ever-increasing number of clones as his chakra grew and had them do nothing but chakra control exercises. His parents' knowledge on chakra control exercises had been fully absorbed, so he now had many to work through, but it was slow going because his chakra kept growing. During his parents' visit a few days ago, they told him how to use the resurrection seal on another person, and even how if he used 3 at the same time it may do something to reverse the effects of aging. Naruto was unsure how that would be helpful but trusted them. Naruto had taken a week off school after the Uchiha incident. He had told the Hokage what had happened to him, and was almost forced to reveal his eyes when Sarutobi asked how he could resist such a strong Sharingan genjutsu. Flashback. Naruto had just finished his story on what happened to at the Uchiha compound and was waiting for the Hokage's jaw to come off the floor and asked him some question that he knew had to be coming. How? How what? How did you resist the genjutsu from the Sharingan so easily? Sarutobi finally articulated. Naruto was sweating until Kurama reminded him about the genjutsu sensor. Well, I guess I should tell you a little more about the seal I have. Besides the fact that me and the Kyuubi are on good terms he can pulse my chakra for me if need be, my seal has a genjutsu sensor array on it that can either pulse my chakra or if that doesn't absorb the foreign chakra then use the Kyuubis to destroy it. All I had to do was act the part. Sarutobi was impressed. He had known the Kyuubi was not the evil entity that it was made out to be. But he never expected Minato to put something like that in the seal, but he was glad he had. How are you taking everything? Asked Hiruzen, concerned for Naruto's mental health. Okay, I guess. Do you think I could stay home for a few days to get myself tighter so that I don't seem like something is wrong? Just say I was sick or something. Yes, I believe that would be a good idea, he replied. Thanks, Gigi, Naruto said, leaving the office after getting a signed excuse from the Hokage himself. End flashback. As Naruto was making his way home after his training session, he began to get an uneasy feeling in his stomach. It only seemed to get worse the closer he got to his building. When he climbed to the top floor, he instantly knew something was wrong. Everybody had moved out on the top floor, leaving only him. But he could smell a fresh scent of someone else. He could tell from both the smell and emotion sensing that someone was in his apartment. They were nervous but had no plans of hurting him. He recognized the smell but couldn't quite put a name and face to it. With all his observations complete, he decided to go in and see what they wanted. He unlocked his door and opened it. He didn't see anyone, but he knew they were there. What do you want? I know you're here, so don't try to hide, he called in an even voice as he closed the door. From around the corner in his kitchen, a voice he recognized right away called back. I apologize for the intrusion, Uzumaki-san. I did not know if you would give me a chance to speak first or attack me for trespassing, the voice replied. To what do I owe the honor, Hyuga-sama? Naruto asked to the now identified Hayashi Hyuga. Do you remember what you told me in the Hokage's office just after you saved my daughter? Hayashi asked. Naruto could hear the emotion in his voice. It was almost like he was begging him to understand his message. It took Naruto a few minutes, but he finally remembered the whole thing with help from Kurama. Has it become that desperate? Naruto asked just as carefully as Hayashi had. Only hours are left. Hayashi's simple statement was enough to bring Naruto's thought to a grinding halt. He was his last hope. Hinata and Hanabi might lose their mother if he couldn't help. They were some of his best friend even though he rarely saw them. He hated to see either of them in pain. He saw only one option. Where? With this single word, Hayashi seemed to relax. Meet me here in 5 hours, Hayashi said as he handed Naruto a piece of paper and turned to leave. Some conditions, Naruto spoke, stopping Hayashi in his track. He did not turn, but Naruto could tell he would say yes no matter what. You tell no one who saved her or how it was done. I will be able to tell you exactly what is wrong with her. You don't question how I know or my source. Agreed? Agreed, and with that Hayashi left. Naruto quickly looked over the directions, then went to take a shower. He didn't want to be dirty for something like this. After this, he sent a clone to the Hokage with a note and directions to the secret room in the hospital. 5 hours later, hospital room. Hayashi was getting nervous. It was nearly the appointed time, and his wife didn't have long. She would last until morning at best. He had moved her in secret to a private room that was only supposed to be used by the Hokage so that no one would come looking for them. When the door handle turned, his breathing hitched. Naruto was going to come in the windows to avoid detection. He was completely surprised when the Hokage walked in. He started to sweat, thinking something happened. Relax, Hayashi. Naruto asked me to come and informed me of everything you spoke of, although I do not know why he asked me to come. Hiruzen tried to reassure the worried man. A few minutes later, exactly 5 hours from when he had left, came Naruto through the window. Seeing everybody there, Naruto spoke first. Gigi, I need you to seal the room so no one can sense or see the chakra, light, or sound in this room. When said that, both the Hokage and Hayashi instantly knew why he wanted the Hokage there. He was the only one Naruto trusted who, he knew, was good enough with seals to do something like that. I am impressed, Naruto-kun. That was a very good idea, calling me here for that, Sarutobi said as he erected the barrier. When it was up, Naruto approached the bed Hitomi was laying on and began to look over her sleeping form. While looking her over, he began to sniff. This action confused the other two men greatly. May I ask what you are doing, Uzumaki-san? Hayashi was nervous, but Naruto's actions only confused him. Simple, I am checking to see if it's a disease, a poison, or autoimmune condition, Naruto responded. Hayashi was going to ask how he would know that, but remembered the conditions he had agreed to. While he was thinking of a way to figure it out with asking directly, Naruto's rambling caught him off guard. Definitely not autoimmune. Some signs of disease, but that doesn't appear to be the main problem. He mumbled, then took a really strong sniff near her foresight before jerking his head away and glaring at the bag of medicine going in. Poison. No question, he said, reaching for the bag. At this point, Hayashi was in shock along with the Hokage. They had never seen that method of diagnosis. All he did was sniff her, and now he was saying poison. As they were mulling this over, Naruto had disconnected the medicine bag and sniffed it before putting a few drops on his tongue. Churka metal. With these two simple words, Hayashi felt his world collapsing. Someone had been trying to kill his wife, and he had not been able to see it. Someone has been trying to poison her with churka metal. That's why healing jutsus don't work. He then did something that confused and almost enraged Hayashi, who had to be held back by the Hokage. He removed his shirt before crawling into the bed next to Hitomi. He opened her gown just enough to place his head in the center of her chest and another on the side of his stomach. Hayashi stopped struggling when a bright light started glowing under the hand on his stomach. After a few seconds, his other hand on Hitomi's chest started to glow as well. Resurrection seal transfer, Naruto spoke in a somewhat strained voice. After he spoke, a blinding light shone through the whole room. It took almost a full minute to dim again and for Hayashi and the Hokage to regain their vision. When they could see again, Naruto was standing next to the bed with his shirt on, and Hitomi was again full covered. He was looking a little tired, but what really got their attention was Hitomi. She was sitting up and looking at her hands, flexing them. What happened? She asked. Hayashi wasn't able to answer. He could only go to her and hold her with tears in his eyes. He wasn't going to lose his wife. You're okay. Oh, Kami, he really did. It was the only thing Hayashi was able to say, repeating it over and over. The Hokage cleared his throat and decided to speak. While I am very happy for you, Hayashi-san, we have another important matter to settle. Who did this in the first place? What is going on here? How am I better? Hitomi demanded as she became more confused as they spoke. Well, you see, the Hokage said, pointing to the spot Naruto had been and seeing no one. He then looked around the whole room and noticed that he was gone. It seems, the Hokage was cut off by the clan head. We can't tell you who healed you. Only what he said. First, you didn't have an unknown disease or lingering weakness from Hanabi. You were being poisoned by churka metal. I don't know who is responsible for this, but I will find them. Until I do, though, we are going to have to pretend that you are dead. And I am afraid that you won't be able to say goodbye to the girls in case they try to go after them to get to you again. After this short explanation, Hitomi started to cry. She couldn't believe someone from her own family had tried to poison her, and now she would be able to see her daughters or say goodbye without risking both hers and their safety. What are you going to say? Without my body, they won't believe you. She managed to get out through the tears. She knew the sooner that they made it through this, the sooner she would be able to get back to her daughters. I have a solution to that. There is an old forbidden jutsu called the blood clone. It will create a biologic clone that will last about 2 weeks after it dies before reverting back to the blood it was made out of. It takes a little over a pint of blood. Now normally we would ask that of someone who has just recovered from what you have, but, considering I know a little about the jutsu that saved you, you are probably feeling as strong as you ever have. He looked at the woman, getting a nod as confirmation. It is settled then. I will give you an hour to make arrangements while I set up what is needed for the jutsu. Unnoticed by the three, a small rock in the corner disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto's apartment. Naruto had just arrived home after healing Hitomi Hyuga when his shadow clone dispelled. He had left it to make sure Hitomi would not know it was him. He trusted her but did not want her feeling like she owed him. He had left a clone to see if Hayashi would hold up his end of the deal. When he stopped the old man from blabbing, Naruto decided that he could officially trust Hayashi. It felt nice to know that there was someone else he could trust. He felt bad for Hinata and Hanabi but knew that they would understand in the end and be happy to have their mother back after the culprits had been flushed out. Taking off his shoes and jacket, he decided to just go straight to bed. The seal transfer had taken a lot out of him. It was the first time he had used it on someone else, and it had taken a great deal of concentration to work right. He knew it would be hard but decided he needed to find a way to practice it because he couldn't afford to be this tired after using once. What if he needed to use it on numerous people in quick succession? He couldn't afford to be this wiped out after just one use. He now had one more things to add to his long list of training items he had to complete. He would have to start in the morning. 6 months later. Naruto had been unable to attend Hitomi's funeral. The elders had barred his entry when he had tried. Hayashi was going to stand up for him but Naruto had stopped him. It would not do to have something like standing up for the demon cause a scene on what was already a hard day for Hinata and Hanabi. He knew the truth but he still wanted to be there to help them through it because to them it was real. The blood clone and everything had gone off without a hitch with no one the wiser. It was a week before Naruto saw Hinata in class and, to the surprise of many, the first thing the shy girl did was to throw her arms around Naruto and cry on his shoulder. He never said anything, just held her for a few minutes until she calmed down just before class started. It took about a month before she started to get back to normal, but she seemed to retreat into herself and started to stutter again. The only person she would really talk to at first was Naruto. Hanabi had entered the academy this year as well, and Naruto managed to talk to her a few times to comfort her. Hanabi, instead of becoming shy like her sister, started to become cold like the Hyuga elders seemed to be. Naruto decided he would have to look into this when he got the chance. Now was his chance. We find him slinking across rooftops headed towards the Hyuga clan compound. He had heard Hanabi and Hinata's escort say they had a clan-wide meeting this evening and that would provide the best chance to sneak in. Arriving at a building across the street overlooking the compound, he saw all the Hyugas making their way towards a large meeting hall near the rear of the compound. When the last of them had entered, he made his move. Jumping the wall and landing in tree, using all his senses to detect if someone was nearby. He decided this would be a great time to try out another feature of his seal. Fully activating the Churka masking seal and camouflage seal, he could feel his Churka start to drain quickly. He only had a few minutes before he was forced to release the seals. Quickly and quietly he made his way through the compound to the main family's house. He started looking for what he believed to be either Hayashi's study or office. As he was nearing, he saw a lone guard with his Byakugan active. Looking at the tree he had originally landed in, he now realized that he should have activated everything before entering the compound. He would remember that in the future. After a brief search, he found the room he was looking for. Writing a simple note that he knew only Hayashi would understand. Slipping it under the top paper, he made his way back out of the clan's compound and headed home. Hayashi entered his office, sat down, and let out a long breath. Going over the events of the meeting he had just been left in his head. Flashback. Hayashi walked in and took his seat in the middle of the elders and called the meeting to order. After going through the standard clan business, they excused the branch members and got to the real reason that they called the meeting. Our final piece of business is the training of Hinata and Hanabi. We believe that the Elder Council should take over Hinata's training and have you, Hayashi, focus on Hanabi. With the death of your wife you will have less time to train with both of them, and Hinata needs to be strong in order to be our next clan head. The leader of the Elder Council proclaimed. I don't see the need. I can do my job as well. I train my own children. Before Hayashi could continue, he was interrupted. The question is not whether you can do both, but if you can do both properly. Hitomi helped you with minor clan matters and paperwork. It is not worth taking the risk that an oversight will be made by having a distracted clan head. Hayashi could see that there was something else behind this, but he couldn't think of a reason that would tip his hand. He didn't know who was responsible for his wife's death and wasn't ruling anyone out. Fine, but I will be observing the lessons whenever I choose, and I want weekly reports on her progress. It was the best he could do without outright refusing and creating possibly unneeded tension. For all he knew, maybe they really did have pure intentions, but he doubted it. End flashback. Coming out of his thoughts, he looked at his desk and notices that the paper on top was upside down. Lifting it, he sees a note that was not there when he left. Hayashi. My father's head half past the sunless noon. It took only a moment to realize who this was and what it meant. Naruto had been in his office and wanted to see him. Hokage Monument. Hayashi arrived at 12:30 a.m. on top of the head of the 4th Hokage. When he got there, he saw nothing and no one. Activating his Byakugan also revealed nothing until he heard a voice right next to him. Beautiful, isn't it? Suddenly Naruto seemed to shimmer into existence next to him. How did you do that? Hayashi asked. It was quite disconcerting to see that a child of only 10 able to avoid his detection while standing right next to his whilst he had his Byakugan activated. Another time. I wish to ask you what is going on with Hanabi. She has changed, and Hinata seems to be reverting back into her shy self. It is the council. They have been keeping me busy with more paperwork than before, trying to make a point that they should train Hinata to take some strain off me. I also believe that they have gotten to Hanabi and are trying to make her like them. I am still unsure to what ends they are trying to accomplish with both. Hayashi responded, somewhat ashamed that he did not know what was happening within his own clan. I see. Is there anything I can do? Naruto asked. He hated to see what was happening to the girls. I see something big is coming. I am not sure when or what, but it can't be far off. Just be there for them. I fear I may need your help again to save my family soon. I have a final question for you. Hayashi hesitated. He really needed to know, but at the same time didn't want Naruto to take it the wrong way. What is it? Said Naruto with a lot of curiosity in his voice. He couldn't understand why he felt nervousness coming from Hayashi. Can that technique you used to save my wife, can it also remove the caged bird seal? Hayashi asked without looking at Naruto. I don't know. Why? Asked Naruto with a bit of an edge in his voice. Just hoping for a last option should worse come to worse. And with that he left. Naruto also returned home trying to figure out what Hayashi meant with his last words. When Naruto got home, he went to his room, sat on his bed and began to meditate to enter his mindscape. He arrived in the forest right in front of the open gate where he found Kurama sleeping. That would explain why he didn't help me answer Hayashi-sama's last question. Though Naruto has started to push on Kurama's paw to wake him. What are you doing, kid? It's the middle of the night. Did you really forget about our meeting with Hayashi tonight? No, I just didn't see the point in me staying up for it. Naruto just looked at him as a sweat drop rolled of the back of his head. Anyway, I need to ask you a question about my seal. Can my resurrection seals remove seals from other people? Naruto asked. Kurama cocked his head and though for a few minutes. I don't see why not. There really isn't much that the purified life force energy won't fix. I would say it should. Kurama finished. Should? You can't give me anything more than should? Naruto asked, wondering how he didn't know. No. I have never heard of it being tried, as you are only the second human to ever have the ability, and plus if it didn't, your sure no me will gain the ability to remove things like it as soon as you learn how to control the Petra path. You could simply absorb the seal, and it would be gone because it will not be able to bind to you with me here. Okay, that helps. I am going to sleep now. Naruto left his mindscape and laid down on his bed, trying not to think about what the worst case scenario could be. 2 months later, the broken kunai bar. Enko had returned from another mission and had decided she needed a drink. She kept being passed over for a promotion to Jonin from Special Jonin, where she had been stuck for 2 years. She had been back in the village for 4 years and she was still considered an outsider because of her sensei, even though he used her for an experiment and left her for dead. The only reason she had gotten to Special Jonin was because the Hokage gave her a field promotion after an A-ranked mission that was supposed to be a B-rank mission. So here she was being underpaid and overused. They sent her on missions that most would have considered suicidal. At least when the Hokage wasn't the one handing out mission that day. He treated her like she was any other loyal ninja, but no one else would really even look at her. Her only friends Kurenai and Yugao Yuzuki. Both of whom were currently out of the village on missions. She had many reasons to drink. Like the fact that Yugao was moving in with Hate, her boyfriend, and she wouldn't be able to afford the rent by herself. Kurenai already had a roommate, and it was another year before her lease was up, so she was stuck trying to find a place of her own. So here she was drowning herself in as much sake as she could drink. She could see the guys leering at her, but she paid it no mind. They always did when all you wore was a mesh bodysuit, a brown trench coat, and an orange skirt. If she had been more observant, or even a little sober, she would have noticed the look they were giving he was different than normal. It wasn't just a leer filled with lust but also anticipation. She didn't notice that her last drink was a little more fizzy than normal. Getting up on wobbly legs, she made her way out of the bar and started stumbling her way home, making it only a couple of blocks before she collapsed. When she tried to move again, she found that she didn't have the strength. With a little adrenaline flowing through her, the fog in her mind cleared enough for her to realize she had been poisoned. That's when it came. Laughter. Well, boys, what do we have here?" asked the leader of the three. "It looks like that snake whore drank a little too much. Should we help her?" asked the second one in a voice that was dripping with sarcasm. "I believe we should. It wouldn't be right of us not to help a fellow shinobi," said the final one of the group. The second went to pick her up, and when he did, she noticed that they were all chunin about 2 to 3 years older than her. She may have only been 17, but thanks to her bastard of an ex-sensei, she was one of the most skilled kunoichi in the village. But for all her skills, she wouldn't be able to overcome 3 sober chunin while in this state. Her mind began to race as they picked her up and headed in a direction that made her pale with fear. They dragged her to the shadiest part of town that was basically abandoned. Most of the buildings were falling apart and looked like a stiff wind could knock them over. No one would come by. No one would hear her if she was able to scream. She tried to use her churka to cleanse the poison, but it seemed that they had accounted for that. She was totally at their mercy, and she knew what was going to happen. They dragged her into a rundown building that had been set up ahead of time. She could see this was well planned. Churka ceiling cuffs, straps, ropes and chains all organized on a wall. It was so much worse. She figured they would kill her when they were done, but it seemed that they had planned on keeping her alive for at least a short while. After tying her down, they cut her mesh bodysuit. Having dropped her coat on the way here, it left her naked from the waist up, her breasts exposed. "Well, have a look at that. The whore really has been hiding something, hasn't she?" The leader of the little group sneered while grabbing her left breast and giving a rough squeeze before moving to the other one. Anko had tears in her eyes. This was her worst nightmare. It was worse than her worst nightmare. Nothing her sensei ever did to her could compare to this. And just when she was ready to give in as they cut off her skirt and panties, leaving her completely exposed, there was a noise. The click of the door closing, alerting everyone that it was no longer just the 4 of them. The 3 men turned to look but saw nothing. The one chunin was somewhat of censor, one of the reasons the leader brought him in on this. He would be able to keep watch without actually having to keep watch. He spoke now with a decent amount of fear in his voice. "Remember how I said I thought we might have been followed?" The other 2 just nodded. "Well, whatever that presence was that was behind us on the way here, is now in this room. I cannot tell where or what, but it's here." At that last admission, the other 2 started to freak out a little before calming down. Anko didn't know what to make of it. She was barely able to register what they were talking about, and she could sense nothing. The leader spoke. "It's probably nothing. You're just jumpy," is all the leader said before turning back to Anko, only to notice a blonde-haired boy now standing between them and her, and that her coat was now covering her. With Naruto earlier. Naruto was sitting on his balcony enjoying the night, trying to relax before going to bed while practicing his emotions and churka sensing. Churka sensing was something he had heard of but didn't really know how to do. He understood that everyone had the innate ability to feel churka to a point. He was attempting to train this sense to see if he could go beyond that average ninja. So far, he had not been having any luck. He had figured that maybe he could use his abilities to sense emotions in conjunction with churka to give him a clearer picture on what was happening around him. In the middle of this mixing exercise, if you will, he experienced another first. He could feel the emotions of 4 different people. 3 had had the same feeling to them. That weird one he got from adults when they looked at certain other adults, mixing in with what he had come to know as excitement or anticipation, and finally just a hint of nervousness that seemed to be fading. Now, while this was not the first time he had felt those 3 together, it was the first time he had experienced it from 3 people who were all men and in a group. He had learned that men and women felt and projected the same emotions differently. The part that made him curious was that there was one woman with them, and he only felt fear. Not nervousness or anything of the sort, but just pure fear. Almost as bad as when Hinata was kidnapped. She had none of the other emotions that he usually associated with men giving of these emotions. That being the case, he had decided to follow them. He activated his churka masking seal and stuck to the shadows while moving towards the group. When he finally caught sight of them, he could see 3 men and 1 woman as he had thought. The weird thing was the woman was having to be carried by the 2 of the men with 1 arm over 2 of their shoulders and a third following closely behind. Now he had seen people carried like this before, but it usually was because they were either drunk or hurt. He didn't see any injuries on her, but the large brown trench coat she had on could have hid it, but if that was the case, the hospital was the other way. He could smell alcohol from one of them. He assumed it was the woman, but it also had another smell, one he didn't recognize. He followed closely, but never reviling himself. Until he figured out what was going on, he would remain hidden. It was now Kurama decided to speak to him. Kit, do you know what they are doing? Kurama had a pretty good idea, but he didn't want Naruto to know if he didn't have to. No. I am getting emotions from them that I have never seen together. Do you know? Naruto responded. Yes, but for now just follow them. If they plan to do what I believe, then you will have to stop it. What is it? You're too young to learn that, but just know it is one of the things that makes some humans worse than any demon. With that, Kurama went silent. Naruto, contemplating what Kurama had said, didn't ask further. He followed them to an abandoned and very rundown building. They went to an interior room that must have been an office of some kind, because the only way he could see in was through a window that made up a decent portion of the top of the door. He could hear them speaking to the woman but wasn't able to see her. He was holding the brown trench coat she had been wearing that they had dropped about a block before the building. He just stayed outside the room watching, trying to see if there was a reason he needed to step in. The three men parted for a second and Naruto caught sight of the woman naked and crying. It was at this point that Kurama spoke again. Kit, I am sorry to make you do this, but you want to be a ninja, right? Naruto just gave a mental nod before Kurama continued. Then I want you to go in there and kill those men. The tone he had used scared Naruto. He had never heard Kurama mad before, and it sort of scared him, even though the anger wasn't aimed at him. He was about to ask why when Kurama interrupted him. I won't tell you exactly what they are going to do if you continue stand here not moving, but you will never forgive yourself if you don't act soon. Now go! At this final prompting, Naruto activated his camo seal and entered the room as quietly as he could. When he shut the door, it clicked and all three men turned to look at him. He quietly made his way around them and put the trench coat over to cover her. He then deactivated his camo and waited for them to turn around. Now. Anko's mind was racing. First her coat appeared out of nowhere, and now a blonde-haired boy suddenly appeared in between her and the men. The thing that confused her most was that there didn't seem to be any movement. No chakra usage, no shimmering like releasing a genjutsu. He was just there instantly with his back to her. She didn't know why he was there, but she began to feel hope that maybe he would save her. She knew the idea was foolish. A child against three chunins in their 20s, but deep inside her was a spark of hope. When the three chunins finally came out of their shock, the leader spoke up. Well, if it isn't the little demon. And it seems he has come to protect the little snake whore. This night just keeps getting better. Not only do we get to rid the village of her, but we will be seen as heroes for finishing what the Yondaime started. The other two were just grinning and nodding along, feeling a little silly that they had been worrying. Discounting entirely the fact that they couldn't tell it was him following him, and that he got around them without them so much as seeing a thing. Anko's eyes shone with both hope and fear. She didn't know why this boy of all people would be the one to come for her, and that scared her. But if rumors of his strength were true, then she would be okay. She had heard that he had been able to stall an elite jonin long enough for the NBU to get there and finish the job. Naruto just stared ahead at them with no emotion whatsoever. He knew what he had to do, but this would still be his first real kills that he could have avoided if he wanted. Even though Kurama said it would have haunted him, he still could have left. Any last words? Naruto asked, trying to hide the fear and apprehension in his voice. He was greeted with only laughter. Taking their amusement as an opening, Naruto drew a sword that neither Anko nor the chunins had seen. If a flash, he had run the first one through the heart, and started to swing at another before the third managed to block with a kunai. The second chunin was tending to the third, trying to see if he could save his life, but it was all for naught. His heart had been pierced clean through. The leader decided to go on the attack, using a kunai to try and kill Naruto. Naruto was blocking with his sword, looking for an opening when the second one joined the leader. Now Naruto could do nothing but dodge and flee, waiting for an opening. After about 2 minutes of this, Naruto saw his chance. Turning his back to the leader when he went for a downward slash, Naruto took a cut from his right shoulder to his left hip. It wasn't deep, but it hurt. He did this because the second chunin had overextended on a stab attempt that Naruto dodged and was too off balance to defend. Naruto used this opportunity to stab him through the right side of his rib cage, taking out his right lung and heart in the process. The man died almost instantly. Damn you, demon! The leader snarled, trying to think of a distraction and being angry for ruining his plans. He didn't really care about his two comrades. The boy was much faster than he thought. Maybe even faster than he was. He decided to try a shock tactic to try and stall, thinking he would bleed out and get weaker. Before I kill you, would you like to know why everybody hates you? All this time Anko had been watching in amazement. When he got cut, her heart dropped. She didn't know why, but seeing him hurt made her hurt as well. Maybe it was because he was risking his life for her, and now it looked like he was going to lose. And him losing meant that they were both going to die, but she was going to be made to suffer much longer. The boy had killed 2 of the men that were going to rape her, and was facing off with the last one. He was standing between her and the man who had been the leader. She could see the blood coming from his back, but she thought there should have been more. Upon closer inspection, she could see his hand glowing green as though was holding his shoulder. He had been healing himself in the middle of a fight. Not knowing about his medical seal, she didn't even think that was possible, let alone that someone that young knew medical jutsu. The cut had completely closed and left no scar, only her wide-eyed expression that the last Chunin took as a sign that the boy was bleeding out. "Tell me," Naruto growled, playing along. He knew good and well, but he figured why not use this guy's own tactic against him. He had hidden his wound on purpose to make himself appear as if he was weakening. Everybody believes that the Yondaime killed the Kyuubi, but that is a lie. He started before Anko tried to stop him. Speaking for the first time. And only to be silenced by Naruto quickly using the ANBU hand signs to tell her he already knew and not to worry. To say she was surprised was an understatement. She only knew them because of her sensei. Anybody who was not an ANBU or retired ANBU would normally be executed as a matter of village security. He had learned them in the last few months of general shinobi knowledge he had absorbed from his parents. The leader continued. He couldn't kill it, so he did the only thing he could. He sealed it into an orphan newborn. That orphan was you. Ha 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 ha, he finished, hoping Naruto would have a bit of a break that he could exploit. Naruto pretended to look confused and looked down, shaking a little. The Chunin, thinking he was crying, charged, seeing his chance. He aimed his kunai for Naruto's heart. At the last moment, Naruto used his sword to deflect the kunai and, giving a slight twist of the pommel of his sword, revealing a short 7-inch blade coming from the handle of his sword, aimed it so the Chunin ran his throat straight into the blade, making it sever a jugular vein, his windpipe, and cutting half his spinal cord. He would be dead in a matter of moments. Naruto only said, "I already know," before he passed into blackness, looking straight into the boy's eyes. Naruto let the man's body slump to the floor before twisting the pommel and retracting the blade and then sheathing his sword. He stood there for a moment before he collapsed to his hands and knees and vomited the entire contents of his stomach while crying. Kurama was doing his best to comfort the young boy. This was something that he should never have had to experience this young. Anko just watched him. She was still tied up and the drug didn't seem to be wearing off. All she could do was try to softly console him from 10 feet away in position bound to the bed. He had saved her, and she could tell the kills had been hard on his mind. Even she had been 12 before she had been forced to kill. After about 15 minutes he got up and made his way to her with a dead look in his eye that showed the pain someone his age should never have to live with. Carefully used the kunai to cut her bonds and free her. Sitting up and holding her coat to cover her, she massaged her wrists to get feeling back in them while he cut the ties to her ankles. He turned around so she could put the coat on and close it. Then he spoke to her for the first time. "Are you alright?" He realized he didn't know her name. Anko Midarashi." She answered in a somewhat shy voice that was completely out of character for her. "Are you alright, Midarashi-san?" he asked while she just looked at him. "No. Not right now, but I will be, someday," Anko replied in a sad tone of voice. "Thank you for everything," she said as she went to leave the room before Naruto noticed the mark on his shoulder. He had been absorbing the knowledge of his parents on seal too, and was able to recognize it as a seal. He was about to ask her when he sensed the NBU on the way. "NBU will be here in a few minutes." This brought her up short. She didn't know how she would explain this. Sure, the Hokage would believe her, but that was only if they let it get that far. Many of the current ANBU hated her, and would surely use any reason to execute her on the spot. Considering who she was, she doubted that they would even stop to listen. She began to panic. "I can barely move. Looks like these guys will get what they wanted after all," she mused out loud. "What do you mean?" Naruto asked in confusion, but she just told him there was no time to explain, and told him to run as she tried to move faster. They had left the room but had not made it out of the building before she collapsed unconscious. "Pick her and run. We can sort out the rest later." Not knowing what else to do, Naruto went to pick her up and was surprised at how light she felt. Kurama had, still unknown to him, released some of his gravity and resistance seals so he could get them away. He used his camo and churka masking seals once again until he got home. He laid her on his bed and covered her with his blanket as soon as he got home, making sure she was comfortable before he went to make a few cups of ramen for dinner, then go to sleep. He had been trying to ask Kurama what he was going to do, but Kurama just said to get some sleep and they would talk in the morning. Naruto's apartment next morning. Anko woke up to an unfamiliar room. Cracking her eyes, she tried to get her bearings. She was in an unfamiliar bed in a place she had no knowledge of and started to panic. Before he panicking got too out of hand, her memory started to come back to her. She remembered what had happened last night, and couldn't believe it. A kid who was only 10 had come to save her. She started with what she knew. First, she had been drugged and taken to an abandoned warehouse. The men planned on raping and killing her, and she was saved by a boy. His name was Naruto Uzumaki. The only reason she knew this was because she had heard the leader call him demon and tell him about the Kyuubi, which he apparently already knew. Second, he killed all 3 of her attackers and then presumably, because she passed out on the way out of the building, brought her to wherever she was. Most likely his home. Now to go over what she didn't know or understand. First, why did he show up to help her? How did he find her? They had never even met, and yet he had come. 2. He had literally appeared out of nowhere, along with her coat, getting by 3 Chunin to put himself in between them and her. She was good, but in a room that small with the lights on, what he did should have been impossible. 3. How had he gotten strong enough to be 3 Chunins? She had heard rumors that some of his instructors had tried to teach him things wrong, but it seemed like no one that cared ever heard of it. And last but not least, why did he then help her escape? While she was thinking this over, Naruto had been making breakfast. Instant ramen. She began to smell food, but not what she would normally expect for breakfast. It smelled like ramen. Standing up, she realized she was only dressed in her trench coat and blushed a little. He had left her covered and put her in what was most likely his bed. She didn't know how to react to this, let alone what to do next. She spied a note and a set of clothes that had to be too big to be his because they were too big for her, and she was a good head taller than him. The note read, "Sorry if these don't fit, but they are the only things that I own that are big enough." Not knowing what else to do, she put the baggy pants and shirt on and headed out of the bedroom. When she opened the door, Naruto turned to see her and had, to her confusion, a relieved look on his face. "You're all right?" he questioned/stated. "Not yet, but I will be," Anko answered in a somewhat subdued tone. She could still feel some lingering effects from last night, but figured they would be gone in about the same time as her hangover. "Can I ask you something?" she questioned in a tone that conveyed both curiosity and suspicion. Naruto just nodded. "How did you find me and why did you help me?" Her voice was shaky, but she had held firm through the memories from the previous night that came rushing back once again. Naruto's face betrayed no real emotions, but he didn't know how long he could hold it. He decided to answer with as much truth as possible. "I saw the 3 men carrying you like you were either hurt or drunk. The fact that they were headed away from the hospital made me curious, so I followed them. When I caught up and saw that what they were doing and that you were crying, I decided that I should stop them." Anko couldn't believe it. She was saved because of a little boy's curiosity. She could only say one thing. "Thanks. I should be going. My friends might worry, and please don't tell anybody what happened." Naruto nodded and Anko left, still in a daze. Hokage's office. The 3rd Hokage was not having a good day, and it was only 9 a.m. 3 Chunin had been died in a fire in an abandoned warehouse the night before, and the ANBU investigating it had no leads yet. He was going over the preliminary report again, hoping that he had missed when an ANBU with a dog mask appeared before him. Dog report. "I have finished my investigation of the scene. All 3 Chunin were sober last night at this." Sarutobi looked confused until Dog continued. "However, they were all dead before the fire started." "What do you mean dead? Who started the fire?" "This is now being classified as a possible murder. All 3 had wounds from either a short sword or a smaller blade at a slight upward angle. One straight through the heart from the chest, one from the side through a lung and right through the heart, and the last, with a much smaller blade, through the throat at an upward angle to just below the brain stem, cutting half his spinal cord. All 3 kills were almost surgical. The strikes were precise and they showed no other injuries that couldn't be attributed to the fire. Last but not least, there were no scent trails leading to or formed the scene. Whoever did this is an expert in stealth and evasion that even our ANBU could learn from." "What are we dealing with, Dog? Is the foreign spy or an internal dispute?" Sarutobi asked, pinching the bridge of his nose and sighing. "If may speak freely?" Hiruzen just nodded. "I think this was a rescue with use of deadly force." "How have you come to this conclusion?" he asked, being confused all over again. There was a bed with ropes and churka suppressing straps that had been cut, along with some women's undergarments that had also been cut. The fire made it impossible to tell what happened. As such, I have come to 2 possible conclusions. The first, and one I want to believe, is that the 3 Chunins were trying to rescue this woman from a rather skilled ninja. Or the one I would like to think isn't true, they were the ones the woman needed rescuing from. "I see. Inform me if anything else comes up." Dismissed. This was going to be a very long week. Hyuga compound 14 months later. Things had not been going well for Hayashi. It had been 2 years since his wife had died, and all he had been able to find out was that it was a member of the main branch that had done it, or at least orchestrated it. He began to think about how weird the main family had become. The main family was still forced to brand all but the oldest, but somehow his grand aunt had escaped being branded because she was supposed to be married to a lord somewhere who had died before they could be wed. Now her descendants were not branded because of a minor technicality in the Hyuga clan laws, and as such there were almost effectively 3 branches of the Hyuga. His being the head family of the main. A half-branch of the main family that was basically as restricted as the branch, except that they had greater access to funds and could not be controlled with a seal. His suspicions of the elders' motives for training Hinata had come to nothing until 6 months ago. Until this point Hinata had been making progress, albeit slower than when he taught her, but he chalked that up to him being a better teacher. But now it had taken a severe downward turn. She was going backward now. He would watch the sessions in secret sometimes and would catch them being a little rougher than normal sometimes, but they had been doing it the same way for the 18 months before, and Hinata never complained or even looked unhappy. She would just get up and try harder and be more motivated. But he hadn't had the chance in 3 months to watch, and when he finally did he wasn't able to recognize the problem. They practiced the same way and were even taking it easier on her. Apart from her training, he had treated her like he did when his wife was alive. He was a caring father, if not a little more absent due to paperwork, but both her and Hanabi seemed happy. He now sat in a clan meeting that, unbeknownst to him, would change her future forever. Hayashi, we are concerned about Hinata's backward progress in her training. The last 6 months she has almost regressed to her level of when she was 10, and she was still behind at that age. Her sister Hanabi is at this point far superior to her in skill. It is for these reasons that we have come to the decision that she must be replaced as heir. Her sister will take her place. Before the elder could continue, Hayashi spoke. And what gives you the right to do this? I am the clan head. It is my decision who shall be my heir. You are right, it is your decision. But to not heed the council on this could and probably will cause you to lose the faith of the branch and main families. As such, this decision will be adhered to. Hayashi knew they had him backed into a corner. While the most the branch loved he and his family, there was just enough that when combined with the other main would cause them to be ousted if they took it to a vote. And what would you propose I do with Hinata? Brand her and place her in a branch family? He didn't even bother to disguise the venom in his voice when he spoke of the seal. No, we have found a better solution, said another elder with a smirk that made Hayashi nervous. We have been in talks with one of the daimyo's nephews. He wishes his son to be wed to her. His son is currently 15. Only 3 years older than Hinata. We feel that this is an acceptable age difference, and have already agreed. The wedding will be held in 2 weeks. She will have the sleeping bird seal placed on her so as to protect our bloodline, and we shall gain a valuable ally in the daimyo's court. Before you ask, we asked why she would not have the caged bird seal. The noble does not want any main family Hyuga to have control over her. Hayashi was not happy. He slammed one of his fists down on the table, making everybody jump a little, glared at the council. Then got up without saying a word and left. The elder council members just smirked, knowing they had him in a corner. Hayashi made his way to his study and activated its privacy seals. He then channeled Shirka into a tag in his pocket and listened to the rest of the meeting. None of the council members had realized that him losing his temper had simply been a pretense. The moment they blinked because of the sound, Hayashi had placed a listening tag under the table. He was glad he had asked Naruto for them. What no one knew was that Hayashi and Naruto kept in touch. He would tell Naruto about his secret investigation into his own clan, and Naruto would run letters and messages to and from his dead wife. He had asked Naruto if he had an seal or equipment capable of spying without him getting caught. Naruto, who on his 11th started to absorb his parents' knowledge on seals, had been able to make him a seal on a tag that would disintegrate after use. It may not stop them from knowing they were being spied on if they found it, but it would not be possible to trace. And so, he listened to the conversation after he left. With nothing but more anger. They were planning another treachery almost as bad as his wife's murder. I had not expected Hayashi to lose his temper. He is becoming quick to anger. Do you believe he suspects anything? Asked one elder. Are you kidding? He is still so torn up over his wife that I doubt he could see the truth if it was right in front of his face, said a second. Shall we go through with the Lord's last request? Asked a third with a little bit more businesslike tone. I believe we should. If nothing else, to protect ourselves from any backlash should she ever learn the truth. In addition to the sleeping bird seal, we shall have an ownership seal placed on her as well, so that she will not be able to disobey her new husband. All in favor? The first asked again. 5 other voices responded. As they got up to leave, none of them noticed a quiet, sizzling sound as Hayashi deactivated the tag. Hayashi was furious. He was not going to let his daughter be turned into a slave so the clan would get some influence in the daimyo's court. He had to see Naruto again before their normal meeting time. The only way to do this was through the Hokage. He quickly left for the tower, determined not to waste a second's time in which the plot could develop further. Hokage Tower. Sarutobi was finally having a light paperwork day. He smiled to himself, thinking how nice it was going to be to leave the office by 1. Just as he thought his day would be coming to a close, his secretary poked her head in the door. Hokage-sama, Hayashi-sama is here to see you. He says it's urgent, she said in a professional tone. She never asked ninjas what their business was. She knew it was none of her concern, and frankly it scared her to see some of the people she had seen come in. Some covered in blood all the way up to actual dead missing nin. Sighing, he signaled her to send him in. What can I do for you today, Hayashi-san? The Hokage asked with a polite tone. I would like to have a private talk with him, Hayashi said, quickly getting the Hokage's attention instantly. He quickly ordered his ANBU out and sealed the room. After doing so, Hayashi activated his Byakugan momentarily to make sure they were alone before sitting down. What has happened that you need to talk privately with him? The Hokage asked. He could see the worry on Hayashi's face. The last time it was this desperate was 2 years ago, when Naruto had called him to the hospital. It's Hinata. They are trying to get rid of her by marrying her off to the son of the daimyo's nephew. They think that they can then further manipulate Hanabi into the kind of heir they want. I have been able to make her see that they only want to control, so they don't realize she is playing them. But the reason I need to speak with him is about the caged bird seal. I want to know what he can do about it. The Hokage, having listened carefully the whole time, finally came to realization of what Hayashi might have been planning. You know it will be very painful for her, right? Physically and emotionally. The Hokage asked and stated. Hi. But I would rather she endure the pain for a short while and maybe even hate me and be safe and free to pursue her own life than a slave as they plan. He said, coldly, thinking of the elder's plans. What do you mean, a slave? The Hokage questioned. He was sure that had not been mentioned and was going to hear of this before he made any decision. The last part of their plan, the part they don't know I know, is to apply a slave seal and teach the boy how to use it to control her, and I believe by extension me. Hayashi told him in a defeated tone. This was enough for the Hokage to make his decision. He could have the head of a clan become a puppet to either that clan's elders of to the daimyo's court. He removed the seals and called out Dog, and the ANBU appeared in front of him. Bring Naruto here at once. Tell him the worst has come. The ANBU nodded and disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Naruto's apartment. Naruto had a long 14 months. He kept absorbing his parents at a rate that only seemed to increase. He started to get the sealing knowledge at 11. When he turned 12 last month, they finally told him about his gravity and resistance seals. He had been confused until Kurama had admitted to knowing about them and reducing or deactivating them when he needed in such a way he thought it was only adrenaline. His gravity seal was currently at 16, make his muscles have to move that many times more weight in order to work, but it had been done over the last 7 years so slowly that he felt normal. His resistance seal was at 12, which according to his parents was like trying to walk through the center of a sand dune. To their relief, Naruto was not mad but curious as to why they waited to tell him. Their reasoning was that at 12 he could now change the rate of increase or completely deactivate them when needed because he was graduating. When he told his parents he still had 4 years left in the academy, they became confused. He told them how the age and curriculum had been changed when he was 5. They were surprised but figured the civilian council had something to do with that. On his 11th birthday, his parent told him how to get into their old house and about a room where he could learn to control Kurama's chakra without alerting anyone. He spent 2 hours every night for the last year there, and was up to being able to control 2 tails. He also used the room to test seals that he gained knowledge of and to train his chakra chains and some of his larger elemental jutsu. The real coup de grace though came on his 12th birthday. They had planned for him graduating by then, and as such had special jutsu they were going to teach him for that occasion. After a little begging from Naruto and a promise from Kurama to keep him in line, they relented. Minato taught him the Hiraishin and Kushina taught him her adamant and sealed chains methods. He already had good control of her chains, but now she taught him how to make barriers and use them to hold and seal targets. By this time his eyes had progressed into their 5th tomo. He could use the Deva, Petra, and Naraka pads, and his eyes worded like a fully matured Sharingan. It is here we find Naruto practicing drawing seal symbols and reflecting on his day, going through his clone's memories to see what he was having trouble with, and what he needed to focus on more when a knock came from the door. Sensing no ill intent along with smelling a familiar scent, he answered. A/N feel like Dr. Seuss after reading those last 2 sentences. Good afternoon, Dog. What can I do for you? He called at the same time as answering the door. Dog didn't even flinch. He knew Naruto knew it was him as soon as he knocked. Hokage-sama requests you to meet with him immediately. Dog told him in a monotone voice. Okay, let's go. he said, closing his door and locking it. He started to walk towards the stairs when Dog put his hand on his shoulder. I'm sorry to say that won't be fast enough. Naruto knew this was serious if he was asked for this quickly. He just nodded and Dog transported both of them to the tower with a body flicker. Hokage's office. Dog returned a few minutes later with a very serious-looking Naruto in tow. "Anbu, you are to wait outside." Hiruzen waited until he felt them leave, then put up a sound and sight barrier. "Naruto," he began before he was interrupted. "I thought you asked them all to leave?" Naruto asked. Hiruzen, keeping his reaction off his face, glanced to Hayashi, who instantly activated his Byakugan and found the remaining ANBU. The ANBU started to go through hand seals to flicker away but was too slow. Hayashi had intercepted him and paralyzed him with 6 or 7 strategically placed strikes. Strikes that would make being a ninja ever again quite difficult. The man crumpled to the floor, losing his camouflaging genjutsu, revealing his blank mask with any on it. "Danzo," Hiruzen spat. After ordering the ANBU back in to take him away, then leave again and reapplying the seals, they continued in their conversation. "As I was saying, Naruto, Hayashi asked me to bring you here so you two could speak in private as soon as possible. You have the floor, Hayashi." With a slight bow to the Hokage, Hayashi turned and addressed Naruto. "Remember when I asked you about the caged bird seal? I need to know your answer now." Seeing the seriousness of the situation, Naruto decided to keep it short. "I can remove the seal, but not through what you might consider normal means. All I will say is that it is way unique to me and won't cause the person any harm," Naruto stated somewhat cryptically. Only Sarutobi knew of the way he spoke of and couldn't blame Naruto for not divulging the rest. At this statement, Hayashi's face showed a small measure of relief. "Naruto, this is going to be hard to hear, but Hinata is going to be married off to the son of a noble with a slave seal on her. The elders of my clan don't know I know about it. They told me about the wedding today and plan on telling Hinata in 3 days. It will be official in a week when they apply the seals to her and basically sign her over. I have a plan, but I will need your help." Hayashi spoke in an almost pleading tone. "If it will help Hinata-chan, I will do everything I can," he said, his voice full of resolve. Hayashi nodded and began to tell Naruto and Sarutobi his whole plan, earning a few angry glares from both, but he explained it would be the only way around his clan laws and for him to protect both his daughters. After his full explanation, he gave Naruto and Sarutobi one last bow before turning to leave when he was stopped by Naruto. Naruto pulled out a tag and started to draw a seal on it. When he was finished, he handed it to Hayashi. "Put that on her before you do it. It will lessen the pain greatly." With a nod, Hayashi and Naruto departed in separate directions. Hayashi to go home and figure out how to tell Hinata and Naruto to prepare for the days to come. Hayashi's study. Hayashi had just returned from his meeting in the Hokage's office. He was finishing all the paperwork needed for his plan to work. He had emancipation forms, name change forms, bank forms removing Hinata's name from the list of people with permission to draw on it, an order for her sealing with the caged bird seal should she lose her match with Hanabi, that the elders had insisted on using as a show of why she would not be allowed to continue being the heir. Although the elders didn't know about the sealing order. When he finished, he sat down to write 2 letters. The first was to Hinata. It was the most profuse apology he could write, begging her forgiveness and explaining the whole thing to her. He would give this letter to Naruto and trust he would know the right time to give it to her. The second was to his wife. He didn't want her hearing through any other means but his own words to her. He didn't hold back and told her the entire truth and what he would have to do to save her. She was going to be livid and he knew it. He only hoped that she was able to forgive him when she returned. With everything settled, he decided that he would start the plan's execution right away. He had a branch member bring Hinata to his study and asked her to sit. He kept his face hard and emotionless. If Hinata or anybody else saw what this was doing to him, they may become suspicious that he was up to something. "Hinata," he began, "I have heard some rather disappointing news about your training. Is my information correct?" He could already see confusion and some fear in her eyes. Hinata, for her part, knew she hadn't been doing as well lately, but she couldn't seem to figure out why. It seemed like no matter how hard she tried, it simply became harder and harder for her. She was even able to recognize that her teachers were being lighter on her as things seemed to get more difficult for her. "Hi, father, it is true," she said while breaking eye contact to look at her lap. Hayashi cleared his throat to make her look at him. What he had to say next was one of the hardest things in his life. "Hinata, in 2 days will be Hanabi's birthday. The Elder Council and myself have decided tomorrow you will fight Hanabi, and the winner will be declared the heiress. The loser is to be branded with the caged bird seal and moved to the branch family. As much I dislike this decision, it is the ways of the Hyuga clan." Hayashi barely managed to finish without cracking, watching as his daughter nearly broke down with tears streaming down her cheeks. This warning was the last me or anybody is allowed to speak to you of this until after the spar. You are dismissed. Hayashi finished while watching Hinata stand and leave in silence. Hinata made it to her room before breaking down, throwing herself on her bed and crying. She couldn't believe she would be forced to make this choice so soon. She was sure if she tried her hardest she could at least fight Hanabi evenly, but she wasn't sure she wanted to. She loved her little sister and knew that one of them was going to be branded, and she didn't think she could stand to see her go through that. She knew that if she was branded she would likely be either married off to someone either inside the clan or to a noble, or forced to serve as basically a slave to the main branch, and most likely pulled from the shinobi service. If Hanabi was branded, the same thing may happen, except she would probably be allowed to continue to be a shinobi. After weighing the options, she had made her decision. She only hoped she would be allowed to tell her friends goodbye. Next day, Hyuga Dojo. Hinata was face to face with Hanabi in the dojo with the elders and the main branch watching. One of the elders approached the two. This is a match to decide the future of the Hyuga clan, he started off in a monotone voice. The winner shall be the heiress and the loser shall be branded with caged bird seal and moved to the branch family. He turned to look at Hanabi. Hanabi, are you ready? Hi, she responded. She had been very upset when she was told of the spar. She knew it would be coming since her birthday was coming up and the heir would have to be decided before then. The elder turned to Hinata. Hinata, are you ready? Taking a deep breath and steeling herself for what might be the hardest decision of her life, she opened eyes meeting Hanabi's hard gaze with a soft and apologetic look and spoke. Hi. I forfeit. After that, a round of gasps was heard and several elders were holding what could almost be called smirks. She had just made this easier for them. Before they could speak, Hayashi called the match. The winner of the match is Hanabi. Please return Hinata to her room so she may pack her belongings to be moved to a branch house. Hanabi, please follow me. With that, Hinata returned to her room and began that task of packing her clothes. She would not be able to take much of her wardrobe as they were formal clothes of the main branch. She cried a few times but fought through it. After she was almost finished, a soft knock came from the door. Enter. Her younger sister Turnera stood there trying her best to hold back her tears and let out a very shocked "Why?" Going to her sister and pulling her into a hug, Hinata spoke into her ear. The last promise I made to Mom was that I would never let that seal touch your head. This is me keeping that promise. At this point, Hanabi was openly sobbing. Her sister had sacrificed her own happiness, and maybe even her own humanity for her. She knew of the elders' distaste for her, and was scarred of what they might do to her big sister now. Hanabi-chan, can you promise me one thing before they seal me? She asked in a somewhat broken voice. Anything, Hanabi responded between sobs. Just treat me kindly and try to get me as your attendant so I can still see you. That was almost too much for Hanabi, but she still nodded yes while squeezing her sister tighter. It was then that another branch member made his presence known. Hinata-sama, Hayashi-sama has commanded you to join him in the ritual chamber. This made her stiffen for a moment, and caused Hanabi to hold her tighter. After she relaxed, she spoke. Please just use "san," I am not your superior anymore. Hanabi-sama, I must bid you good night. That almost broke Hanabi's heart. Hearing her sister have to address her as a superior. She never wanted to hear it again. She cried herself to sleep that night, not knowing what was truly becoming of her sister. Hinata was led to the ritual chamber expecting the elders and everyone normally involved to be there. She was surprised when she was met by only her father, who promptly excused the branch member. Before Hinata could ask what was going on, Hayashi held up his hand to silence her. Hinata, let me speak before the elders find us. I am proud of what you did, and it couldn't have gone better if I had planned it. At this, Hinata got a very confused look on her face, but he continued. All will become clear in a few days. If you will trust me one more time, you will see I am trying to save you from a fate worse than death. You will be branded with the caged bird seal and exiled from the clan. Hinata's pain look almost broke him, but he pushed on. You will be taken to a safe place for rest and recovery, and I will visit you in 2 days. Turn around and expose your neck. I have sealed that will greatly reduce the pain of this seal application. This seal will make your body almost completely numb for 8 hours and help you mimic the trauma that usually follows this procedure. He applied Naruto's seal to the back of her neck, and she nearly collapsed when her legs went numb. Hayashi catching her is the only thing that stopped her from crashing into the ground. Setting her on her knees, he began to apply the seal to her forehead, being as careful as possible. Having only done it 3 times as was required for the heir to do to move to clan head, he applied the seal to her forehead. When he was done, he looked Hinata in the eye, his wet with unshed tears, and activated the seal. Hinata did not scream like most do, she simply ground her teeth and took the pain as there was nothing she could do about it now. It took only about 2 minutes, but it felt like hours. She couldn't imagine what others went through to have it applied. It was one of the worst pains in her life. Hearing a sound outside the door, Hayashi resumed his stoic and detached attitude that he used with Hinata when others were near and waited for the fallout. The door came bursting open with the head elder being the first to speak. "What is the meaning of this, Hayashi? You know very well that she is not to be branded with that seal." This caught Hinata's ear as her father said her other fate could be worse than death. She was to be married to suitor we had picked out. Now they will never want her. At this point Hayashi was trying to keep his emotions straight while he spoke. I know what was to happen. But her complete unwillingness to fight is something we cannot allow. She has been branded and already removed from the Hyuga clan registry. Even her use for an arranged marriage went out the window when she was too weak to even fight. Some ANBU will be arriving momentarily to take her to an orphanage. With this he went to lift Hinata from the ground when a second elder spoke. I wish to verify that the seal is in fact functional. It is after all only the 4th time you have ever applied this seal. Being the one who usually does the sealing, I would like to inspect your work. Struggling to maintain a neutral facade, Hayashi tried to refuse. You know well the danger of using the seal within the first day off application. It can be deadly. I will hold it for only 3 seconds. That should be within the safe limits if the seal is properly set. Knowing that it would be too suspicious to refuse any more, he stood Hinata up and turned her around so he was between the elders and her, facing her and away from them. He gave her a brief apologizing look and mouthed to her, "Act like it hurts." He then stepped away a few paces and nodded to the elder. The elder held up a half-tiger sign and focused as hard as he could on Hinata's seal. She instantly collapsed screaming and grabbed her head. She was so grateful for the numbing seal because this was even more painful than the sealing. After 3 seconds the elder stopped. He had figured she would live but be crippled. Between the pain and the numbing seal, she had a blank look in her eye and he speculated that her brain would never full recover. Hayashi walked over to her and lifted her up, giving her one final apologetic look before she passed out. Taking her through the compound, he handed her off to a dog-masked ANBU with gravity-defying silver hair before walking back inside. He now had to face his other daughter and hope that she would one day forgive him. With ANBU, Dog walked with the young Hyuga to the Hokage's office. He would have taken her straight to the orphanage that was to be a temporary cover, but he could sense that they were being followed by several Hyugas. He had been let in on the whole ordeal because they decided they needed another party they could use as a cover to keep the Hyuga elders from piecing together Naruto and Hayashi's plan. Hence why Dog now had become a go-between of sorts. Arriving at the Hokage's office, the room was quickly sealed to prevent any prying eyes. Namely the Hyuga that had been stalking them the whole way. As soon as the room was up, Naruto seemed to materialize in the room and rushed to Hinata. Why is she unconscious? She should have been in only a minor bit of pain this long after the sealing. The worry in his tone apparent as he looked for any sign of injury. After taking a deep breath of her scent, his eyes turned red with slit pupils. This caught both of the room's other occupants off guard. Hiruzen turned to Naruto with a look that asked what was going on. Naruto just growled in anger and said her would handle it. Looking for an answer, Hiruzen turned to Dog asking for an explanation. I believe Hayashi was caught applying the seal and the elders wished to test it. I am not sure of anything else, replied Dog. Upon hearing this, Naruto immediately started to focus chakra through his healing seal and apply it to Hinata's head and heart. The damage was reparable, but it could have led to complications if left alone. He would need to use a resurrection seal to fully heal her, but it would have to wait a few days. Dog turned and got the Hokage's attention. We were followed her by at least 3 Hyugas. I am unsure of what their intentions are. I do. That's why I am taking Hinata with me. I can watch over her until she has recovered, and then I will let her in on all that is happening. Naruto spoke with conviction. Hinata was one of his best friends, and if truth be told, he had started to like her as more than that, and he knew how much she liked him. He lifted Hinata into his arms and faded out of sight with her before the Hokage released the seals and opened the windows for him to leave. The Hyugas who had been watching patiently for the seals to drop were incredibly confused when they could see into the room again, and there were now only 2 people in the office, and neither was their target. After watching for another half hour, they went to report back to the elders. Next morning, Naruto's bedroom. Hinata woke up to the smell of eggs being fried and a pounding in her head. She realized she was not in her bed, and the ceiling was all wrong. She had at first thought that the events of last night were a dream, but she could never have imagined that much pain. Catching her reflection in the window, she saw the caged bird seal on her forehead, and realized she must be in an orphanage somewhere after being kicked out of her home. With all of this crashing down on her, she did the only thing she could: cry her eyes out. Naruto had been making breakfast, hoping to surprise Hinata with it before she had the chance to realize that last night was not a dream. As he was putting their breakfast on a tray, he heard the soft sound of sobbing coming from his room. He decided that he would give her a few minutes while he got them something to drink, then do his best to help out. Hinata's head jerked when she heard a soft knock at the room's door, followed by "I have breakfast, Hinata-chan." She recognized that voice. She would know it anywhere. It was Naruto, but what would he be doing in an orphanage? He had his own apartment after he was kicked out. That's when it hit her. This was Naruto's apartment, and she was sleeping in his bed. She was instantly red and fighting to stay conscious. She no longer fainted around him, but this was almost too much to take. The throbbing in her head helped her stay awake. "And then Naruto-kun?" she asked softly as he came in with a tray full of food. He could see the questions in her eyes and held up his hand to stop her. "I know you have some questions, but before you do, let's eat, and while we eat I will tell you what has happened and why to the best of my knowledge. Okay?" She was apprehensive but decided that it would be easier for her to listen rather than just ask a bunch of questions. So, while she ate in silence, Naruto told her all about his part in this twisted story. How her father had come to him for help for the second time but told her she would learn about the first tomorrow. He told her about the elders wanting to use her as a pawn for what would amount to her being a slave wife to a noble in the capital. How he and her father found that this would be the only way to keep her safe from that fate, and that he was the one who made the numbing seal to help with the pain. She knew he was one of her best friends, but she couldn't believe the lengths that he had gone through to help her and keep her safe. It made her eyes wet with unshed tears, and she leapt at him to hold him and cry on his shoulder, thanking him for all he had done. He only responded with, "I would never let something like that happen to someone who is so precious to me." After she had cried herself to sleep, a combination of everything she had learned and lingering after effects of the seal and its use, he tucked her in and took the dishes to the kitchen, creating several shadow clones to watch over her, and leaving a note telling her to just rest, relax, and not go outside. He left to do his daily training. When he returned, he found her on the couch reading a book from his bookshelf, Fuinjutsu for Beginners. He smiled when he came in and saw she was feeling better. "How are you feeling, Hinata-chan?" he asked, getting a smile in return. "I am feeling much better. The pain in my head is almost gone, but I still feel really weak. It only been getting worse lately," she said as she looked like she had to put some effort into just standing. It almost made Naruto see red from anger, but he managed to control it. He knew why she was weak as soon as she arrived in the Hokage's office, but had decided to wait to tell her until he had everything set to heal her. "What would you like for dinner?" he asked as he took his shoes and coat off, giving Hinata a glimpse of what he was hiding underneath when his jacket caught his shirt and pulled it up. It was a lean and toned body no one their age should have, making her blush a deep red. "Well, I'm not that hungry right now." It seemed her stutter had returned somewhat from her recent trauma, at least that's what Naruto told himself. "Nonsense, you need to eat to regain your strength. I will make you something. Or rather, he will while I clean up," the blonde said happily while producing a shadow clones. Hinata was stunned to see another Naruto appear since his other clones had hid from her that day. When she realized the clone was solid, she gasped. "How did you do that?" When she asked, he realized his mistake and scratched that back of his head. "Oh yeah, I haven't told you the truth about myself yet, have I?" "What do you mean, the truth?"